Jon Stewart's still the best Green Lantern. I don't care what you've said.
Uh, wow, that was a blindside. That's man. Um, I I can't say yes or no because I just know more about Hal Jordan than Jon Stewart. But I like Hal Jordan. I can say Jon Stewart's probably better than Guy Gardner.
Yeah, it's not hard to be better than Guy Gardner. I think Sinestro could wipe the floor with Guy Gardner. He would struggle with Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart.
Yeah. Oh, and all three are better than who's the other one? Kyle Renner. Kyle. Is that his
I
name?
forgot Kyle Renner even exists.
Yeah, that explains it. Those three are above him. I feel like Kyle Renner is.
Right, guys, I think that's enough DC talk for now. We're going into the end of our Marvel Phase 1 season, excluding the recap, obviously, with a tier list of the characters of Phase 1 that we have chosen of 40. With me today, we have...
Hello, everybody. I'm one of your hosts, Sukiki Ryder.
I'm Crimson Maroon.
And I'm Sprinks. And hey, if you're listening from OWA, yeah, you can find us on, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Blueski. I forgot one, didn't I? What am I forgetting? I don't know what I'm forgetting.
Instagram?
And Instagram? I say Instagram? Anywho, LetterBoxd as well, where we have our average out numbers of graphs and everything we've covered. We have a visual side of things over on YouTube and Rumble, but maybe that's not your cup of tea. Don't worry and don't fret. We have plenty of audio platforms out there where you could be listening from, where you possibly could be listening from right now.
Wow. Yeah. And yeah, we're back at another tier list. It's been a while. Funny enough, it's the last one we did was also a franchise one. So kind of fitting in that regards.
Back in Twilight,
Coming
which
back
was
around.
what season was that?
That was a year ago now. I don't know what season, but that was a year ago when we did Twilight. Which is kind of crazy to think about. That's where we're at.
And time is a weird soup.
More like a big ball of wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey stuff.
Season 19 or something? I don't know. Scooby-Doo, I think, was 21. Yeah, something. I don't know. So, yeah, I guess we should establish criteria of this tier list.
Yes, what are the ground rules?
Yeah. Well, is it our subjective, objective combos? You know, we got to open that up because we always do at these. Is it the combos we're going for again?
It's probably the best idea to stick with the combos. I think that would present an interesting dichotomy, as usual.
Works for me.
Spring Sean, we're with that criteria. All
Sure.
right. We have 40 characters that we picked through Phase 1 of our coverage. It also includes the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Well,
characters, some of them.
Hold on now. You're slightly lying to the audience here.
I am?
There's 41.
Oh, with an honorable mention?
Well,
I suppose.
Well, no, this extra one, which we've agreed to use, is that at the beginning or is that at the end?
I guess it can be at the beginning because there's a visual side with it, right?
Well, it's visual either way.
Yeah. I don't know. It's been now put forth. What do you prefer? I'm fine with it being in the beginning.
You can go in the beginning. It's the honorable mention.
Okay. Then that's the one we can start with.
Okay. So we have an honorable mention we'll go with once we actually start the list. We have the rule we're going with of once we're all done with the tier list, all 41 in air quotes.
We'll say the
we
40, right?
each, yeah, we'll go 40
You
because
can't move.
it's honorable
Honorable.
mention. They're on the list. So the 40, we each are allowed to move one person up or down one spot from where we placed them on the list. So there's that rule.
Are we allowed to move someone previously moved?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just
Make
want to
for
make sure.
some
I
drama.
just want to
That
curious
is
if that
allowed.
rule is allowed. Okay.
Now,
Yeah,
if a character's in F tier, you cannot knock them down to out of the list.
That's true. And if they're an S, you can't mark them up.
There's no SS in this
Yeah, there's
tier
no
list.
Charlie Swan tier,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
there's
this
no
time
God
around.
tier.
Yeah. So I guess those are the limitations of the moving stuff. Can't move them out of the actual list.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah. We're going from the standard S, A, B, C, D, F, and we have NA, but I don't think that's going to be used in this one. So, because we are all familiar with the characters involved in this. Am I missing anything?
Well, there is like honorable mentions who aren't in the list at all. If we wanted to,
I mean, we were limited to 40. There's clearly more than 40 characters in the whole season we covered.
I think the big ones that might be missing are probably the Howling Commandos from Cap, and then the Warriors 3 and Sif from Thor. Those are some easy honorable mentions that didn't make the list, but we had bigger fish to fry.
as well as
And one
Dummy did not make the list.
Yeah, I was like, one of the audience is going to be screaming at is where's Dummy?
I was screaming about it. I got outvoted.
Dummy was a last minute loss because it was
Yeah.
in the running.
Yes, Dummy was the Dummy was in the original versions of this list, but ended up getting dropped for another person in the list.
So sorry if your character didn't make it, but we were limited. We were originally going to do 30, but realized it's not enough.
Also, this is alphabetically of the 40, so we'll go down them. If you're curious why some characters have their name before their superhero name, or their superhero name before their regular name, or like a nickname and not their actual name, or how that is, oops. That's all I can really keep going.
Rhodey with an R and not W for War Machine?
Great question. It's also like, why is
also which Rhodey?
Well, they're the same in this continuity.
Yeah, they're the same in this list. Yeah.
So just to throw it out there.
Yeah, bound to happen.
We could have had a character start with A. We didn't.
Yeah, so that'll be it. All right. Well, now into the tiering section, starting with our honorable mention. And it was brought up to actually be in the 40, but voted upon.
It was too
probably
hard.
Not. It's too gray of a scenario. So honorable mention being
Stan Lee.
Stan Lee. There we go. Good job. I was waiting to jump on board.
Editor, keep that pause.
So, yeah, Stan Lee was too iffy because there's too many different versions of characters he played, or with the whole Watcher thing, he's all the same, but that's not established in Phase 1. So it was just better to throw in the honorable mention category, at least not acknowledge his presence, because it's Stan Lee.
It is Stan Lee. Yeah, it would have been a little too difficult to tier each of his cameos.
Oh yeah, that'd take 6 slots of our 40 just for Stan Lee cameos. So
yes, in that vein, yes.
Yes, but as his honorable mention status, we are going to have each iteration of him listed in each tier, just for acknowledgement of each of his cameos. Is that right?
Yes.
Awesome.
So there's 1 in S, 1 in A, B, C, D, F.
Stan represented. Moving on to the 40 that we can move around in the tier list. Starting with not a letter A, but a letter B. And we'll start with writer and then we'll take turns each name as we
Going down
do.
the line as we go down.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
So,
Well,
Ryder,
Well,
Crimson, Sprinks.
now I am confused.
Uh-oh.
Are we not
What
rating
now?
the stands right now?
Oh, I thought you already had them pre-did on there.
I have
Okay.
them. We got to put them where we're putting them. Where are we putting these
All
6?
right.
How do we know which one's S, which one's F?
So I guess Sprinks list one and we'll put it out there.
We have Iron Man 1 stan of like the Hugh Hefner. We have the Incredible Hulk drinking the soda wow one. We have the Iron Man 2 Larry King, I think. We have the Thor one of Did I Get It with the pickup truck. We have the first Avenger one where he thinks he'd be taller. And then we have the Avengers one, Superheroes in New York. You got to be kidding.
Going in order here. I think what jumps out to me for S tier is probably between the Thor cameo and the Avengers cameo.
For me, I immediately thought of the Thor one when these were all listed.
As the S tier one?
Yeah.
Interesting. I thought of the Avengers one as the S tier one.
I'm not too surprised. So I guess, Ryder, you're the decider because you said both.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I in terms of more memorable ones, I think the Thor one is better integrated in terms of what Stanley will be eventually. But that's irrelevant, I guess, to this. But so I think I had a good laugh out of that one. So I think Thor one is gonna go into S.
Okay.
Then Avengers is
Avengers
A.
is A.
Yeah, Avengers definitely goes in A.
Okay.
Okay. Any easy contenders for F?
I think it's one of the 2 Iron Man ones.
So the Hugh Hefner one or the
Larry King one. Being
Larry
for
King.
me that it's not he's playing someone else and he doesn't have a speaking line.
I would put the Larry King one at the bottom. At least between those two.
Yeah, I think I'd
Trying to
agree with that. Yes.
thought he'd be taller. Yeah. Yeah, Larry King one. Bottom. Good with that.
That's fine with
Yeah,
me.
Larry King goes bottom, I think.
'Kay.
My choice for D is probably Incredible Hulk.
Oh, I'd have that as B.
No, I thought he'd be taller as B.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna pitch for D. I thought he'd be taller.
Really?
Ooh, then I thought he'd be taller should be C.
I mean, unless, well, what would you have for D then, Sprinks?
I'd have the Hugh Hefner
Q.
first Iron Man.
Yeah, I have Hugh Hef at C, I think, in my brain.
Oh man, we picked like the worst combination of distances between these.
I know. We might have screwed up. uh,
uh,
I put Hugh Hef not in C. I put this above D because I think it's fitting for it being the first of the MCU and it is his first cameo. It's not much because Stark doesn't really see his face, but we the audience recognize what his face is. So I think the simplicity is kind of what holds it above D tier for me.
its significance of being the first. I
Yeah.
can see that. Sprinks, you
I,
said the soda was B for you?
Yes, I like the speaking line, and to me, it's one of the most memorable ones of him. And he actually affects the story in that one.
He is pivotal.
yeah.
Actually, without him, the movie wouldn't happen.
Yeah, I would say I would probably agree with what you said, Sprinks. It's personal dislike that I think that it was why I would rather that go into D tier than B. But I'm not as hardline on that one.
Okay.
But from what I heard you guys say though, did both of you guys Oh no. Okay, I'm just remembering where you guys were. So, on the, I thought he'd be taller. You were on C with that one, right, Sprinks, and then you were on D with
Yes.
that one, right, Crimson?
Yes,
And it
Okay.
sounded
and you
like you
were
were
at
a B.
B, right?
Yeah, that was where I was at B. Yeah, we inverted it.
and the
We're
C,
all different.
That's why it sounded like
yeah,
C worked.
and the C medium is also the medium for the other choices, kind of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of.
That's
Yeah.
why. That's why it's crummy.
I will say
Um,
I'm more fine with I thought he'd be taller above the Hulk one than I am with the Hugh Hefner one.
I think I'd rather have the soda over the. Thought he'd be taller. Huh.
But you want the
All right.
Crimson, you want the Hugh Hefner one as B, is what you're saying then?
No, I'm fine with the hue being C, but I think
But
our
you want the other
agreements
two
on
above it.
B is what's. No, I mean I want the taller under hue. That's what I view it
Okay.
as, but I know that's too far of a gap here. So
Ryder, which one do you like more? The I thought he'd be taller from First Avenger or the Hugh Hefner from Iron Man 1?
I have more reverence for the Hugh one, but I think I thought it'd be taller. I enjoyed that more. But they're both more meaningless cameos. So I think after listening to all this, I think I'm fine. I thought he'd be taller going into D, and then putting the Hulk one in B since that one accomplishes more objectively. There's no story without that one. So I guess my revised list would be
tall
Hulk,
hue soda,
Iron, yeah, Hulk, Hughes, Soda, yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Wait, you say Hulk Hugh Soda? Isn't Hulk and Soda the same?
Say Hulk.
You did.
Oh,
uh, so yeah, it would be uh, Pollard would be in D. Hugh would be C, and Soda would be B.
yeah, that.
Okay. I'm okay with that.
All right.
Now that we have the honorable
Oh,
mention done, right?
that was I think so. Yes, that was got a little fun there at the end when we all had a different version.
Now we'll get into the 40 we can move.
Can we move these ones? Are these allowed to be
No,
moved?
I
No.
don't think we
Okay,
should.
cool. Just making sure.
Yeah. We kind of did a small ranking list with that one instead of a classical tier list.
Kind of. That's true. There's not multiple in one tier.
Yeah.
So we will be going with the 40 we can move, not starting with an A. We do not have an A with how we chose the names of these characters. We have a B, and Ryder, you can start it off by listing them and what you rank them.
Alrighty. Well, first off, everybody, we've got Betty Ross from The Incredible Hulk. Uh, I have a lot of subjective love for the actress. My like for her with regards to the MCU is, I guess, average. I do think she serves her purpose in the film. She's not exactly a deep character. I think the best part of her character is more about her connection to General Ross, the antagonist, and then also the protagonist being Bruce Banner. So I think Betty Ross is a good first candidate for C tier.
Okay, I'll go next. And I also had Betty at a C tier. She, to me, is one of the most forgettable characters in Phase 1. And there's not like a standout moment in the movie with her where she like steals a scene or takes the stage. She's kind of just there as a plot convenient, or not plot convenience, plot point, I guess, for Bruce. Uh, so yeah, I have her to C.
I'll go with I did not prior a list to this. I do not already have them categorized in a way. It
Oh
sounds
yeah, I
like
should
Crimson,
specify.
you do.
I also didn't either.
I've done it on every tier list. So I did.
Okay. I have Betty as a D. It's just forgettable kind of character. Uh, Kind of one film. Not really, didn't really have anything to do with Bruce in Avengers. so it just feels very isolated, and
Yeah.
the romance of it feels very paced for, or I mean, that's onto the film itself, but it's like she'll drop who she's with, who she's getting married to for Bruce, and that seems very disrespectful to Phil Dunphy, or what, I forget his name. And she's running out in gunfire, and she like thinks she's so safe being with a monster because it's Bruce, which is not Bruce, it's Hulk. But she seems delusional to me.
Within the context of that movie, though, Hulk and Bruce are closer together than they are in the Avengers.
Yes, but I still think her limitations on safety in the environment is delusional.
I mean, it can be classified as delusional, but it would still just be an attached character trait of hers. It's kind of a tricky one because I can buy putting her in D. I just thinking about the rest of the list. Is it good for her to be in D? I'm fine moving her to D. I'm fine doing that.
I'm trying to think of what right now of who I would probably put underneath her, and I'm, I think there's only one or two characters maybe that I think would go underneath her. Uh, all right, I'll accept her being in D, I suppose.
D it is.
All right. Up next, we have Black Widow, aka Natasha Romanoff, but in B's for Black Widow. I have her at an A. I will preface this. I try to distinguish Phase 1 from everything else, but I mean, we're all biased to some degree. Uh, with her presence in here, I think her interactions with Barton in Avengers is solid. Her interactions with Loki, getting some vulnerability with the red on honor and all that jazz. I think a lot worked out for her. I even think having her as your femme fatale in Iron Man 2 think was a good start to her. She didn't have to start complex. So building up a template on her in Avengers I think was actually a good thing. So yeah, I have her in an A.
I also have her at an A. She's a solid Avenger teammate, and also the Phase 1 only for any and all of these.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna echo chamber here. I also have Black Widow in an A. I think it's interesting kind of look at phase one and her characters in total. I think starting her as the femme fatale in Iron Man 2 is a great way to introduce her skill set while on the job, while being more of a peripheral character. And then having Avengers expand on that foundation, giving her depth with Hawkeye, and additionally as to why she's doing the job she is and why she's where she is. I think it works out really well to her character. You get a bit of a slow build with her.
All right, A it is.
Sounds like A.
Yeah.
All right, next up, number 3, we got Bruce Banner, which is the Edward Norton Incredible Hulk one and the Avengers Mark Ruffalo one. So all encompassed. For me, because it also includes Hulk. Nor if it was just the Avengers version, I'd probably say S, but including the Incredible Hulk, I think I'll have it as an A.
All
Okay.
right. Interesting. Um, he was never gonna get Eston for me. Um, I was bouncing. I'm kind of in. I think I'm at a B for Bruce Banner. I think we get two different variations of the character. That's obviously because we're getting two different versions. But Hulk comes attached with him a lot of problems. He just knows to be in the center of New York, outside of obviously getting the message. But that relates to the problems as to how, like in Avengers, how is Iron Man so certain he's going to show up? That's kind of an issue that gets brought up in Avengers with regarding his character. Um, I think uh, his interpretation in the Incredible Hulk doesn't is a different interpretation versus the Avengers, and I do think that holds him back from being an S tier. And I do think it's enough to keep him out of A tier for me. So I'm actually at a B with Bruce Banner. Probably a controversial take.
You know what? No, pondering it over, I'm acceptable with that. You know, thinking more so now on the Incredible Hulk stuff. I don't know why it said A. Or sorry, I don't
Okay.
know why I said S.
Oh, but you're still at an A.
I'm at a B.
You're at a B now. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to be the controversial one and give him a C. Regardless, I've been outvoted. I don't think I'm going to convert one of you down to a C. But it mostly comes down to the
Please
differences
make the
between
attempt.
the differences between Incredible Hulk and Avengers with the two banners. Spranks brought up something I didn't even think about during the coverage, which was the heart monitor watch. Doesn't exist in Avengers. That he's still the same banner, even though it's a different actor. So they needed to either explain that he doesn't need it anymore, or he should have had it. They didn't, and that was a big component of the first film, the Incredible Hulk film. And yeah, what Ryder was saying about him knowing everyone's gonna be in New York for the battle and stuff, which we talked about. So, and just the inconsistency of the Hulk. Sprinks has talked about how in Incredible Hulk, Hulk feels like it's just Banner, but in Avengers, Hulk feels separate from Banner. So there's an inconsistency within Hulk himself. So I have him as C.
All right, 2 B's and a C.
No, it's a B tier, unless I converted one of you. Guess not. B
Guess
tier it
not.
is.
No. All right, Ryder, you're up to bat for the next.
All right. Next up on this list is Bucky Barnes. It's interesting to think about Bucky in the context of Phase One. I think I said it during our coverage in First Avenger. They do enough for the audience to understand that Cap cares about Bucky. I don't think they do enough to make the audience care about Bucky, at least within the context of Phase One. I do think he is a okay written character in terms of subjective love for the character, though. I don't have much. Um, I'm bouncing between a B and a C, and I think I'll end on C for the time being.
All right. I have Bucky at B. I pretty much agree with what Ryder was saying about there's not much to him other than something for Steve to care about, which I think they achieved well. But in terms of his personality, there's not much other than I'm loyal friend, which there doesn't have to be more complex than that, but that's what's there, which is why I'm giving it a B. It does its job. He's likable, but not lovable. I don't. I'm curious how many people actually like got emotional of him dying. But I'm at a B.
And Crimson, I feel the exact same with your reasonings, which is why I have him at a C.
Ooh. All right. You just felt more stronger towards them, I guess. Do I feel like I
Oh,
want to
you
change?
feel stronger.
We're already a C. Well, stronger that they were a detriment of the
And this is
lack of having
being
depth.
that this is only first Avenger Bucky, C is fine. If this was
Yeah,
like two Thunderbolts Bucky, I'd have a totally different answer.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat there. Well, okay. See, I wouldn't go that far because see, Thunderbolts Bucky has
I don't mean
Falcon and
just
Winter Soldier Bucky.
true, but that
So
also goes Winter Soldier, Infinity War, all that.
yeah, I would probably go if I were like Bucky at Infinity War would be really high on this tier list. I think because
I'll
that
say,
would include a lot of what's come before.
yeah. To me, Civil War and Falcon Winter Soldier kind of cancel each other out.
It's kind of yeah.
I'm fine moving to a C. I'll join you guys. So, C's across the board for Bucky. All right, up next, we will be doing Captain America, aka Steve Rogers. Going with the C for Captain America.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, we need the clarification these days.
Yes. So I have him at an A. I don't think too many people are surprised that he's ranked high. I'm going to imagine in general, but at least with me, he's an A because he's consistent between the two appearances in his films, Captain America and Avengers. He kind of feels not exactly like an evolution in Avengers, but he kind of capitalizes on his traits from the first Avenger. And I don't know, his interactions with like Tony, and I guess that's mostly it, but I guess the group in general, it's just good. There's not much I can say negatively about it. The reason it's not S is because I don't really care about Cap that much to put him in S. So subjective wise, it's not up there. So I have him in A.
Cool. He's a clear S for me.
Yeah, that wasn't even.
Yeah, easy.
Yeah.
Best character in Phase 1 for me. I saw something, unfortunately, I can't remember where it was from or to credit it, but I saw a little thing about talking about Captain America in Phase 1. And when you have a character so, not perfect, but like so greatly made in First Avenger of the character, how do you give a character arc to someone that you don't want to ruin in any way? And how that came across with Avengers was you don't change the character, you change the world that they're in. And I thought that was so fascinating for Avengers that it's the same guy, but the whole world he's in is different. And that's the change to how he's being affected. So it doesn't feel like a 1-to-1 match of First Avenger to the Avengers for Cap. But how that's changed, I think, was very interesting for a character approach.
Yeah, and giving him someone to butt heads with is also helpful in that regards.
Yeah. And then also, I can argue a lot of that's set up as well. Um, one of the things well, as you say, think it's an interesting way to treat the character, but that's in a way I view that as a classic way to treat a character. You can't, in a way, it's almost the sitcom approach to a character. The character can't really change from episode to episode because you have to have your bookend. Each episode, your character needs to stay the same for the next episode. But in a way that works to Cap's strengths because Cap is a man out of time. So how you change and affect his perception of the world. How does the new world present challenges for him and his character because he's meant to stay mostly the same character. I do think there are changes that happen to his character in his journey. I do think that some of his flaws get more exposed as his journey goes along into the MCU. But um, just with Steve Rogers here, with between First Avengers and Avengers, I it's an S tier for me. Um, I he usually is in contention for my favorite character overall for the MCU. He's usually in the top three mix that I'm always thinking about when it comes to this series, and I think Phase One does such a good job of building that foundation of who he is, why he is the way he is, and also laying groundwork unintentionally for what his flaws are going to be going forward. And it makes him such a fascinating character. Even if he is, you know, you're the Boy Scout, uh, and yeah. So Cap's an S for me.
2 S's and an A.
So B.
Don't like him that
Is
much.
that the math? No, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. I'm still at an A.
That's fine. Funny enough, right now we have one from S through D lined up, with F being the only open slot right now. Just kind of ironic how that's lined up, because next on the list is, as we have, the Chitauri speaker, otherwise known as the Other. To me, this is an easy F. Who cares?
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. My favorite scene with him is not in Phase One at all. So I'm going with also easy. Well, okay, I'm not okay. I think I'm at a D actually. I think he serves his intended purpose of being a spokesperson for Thanos, and kind of helping to illustrate the contention with Loki during the first Avengers movie. Sorry, Avengers. I'm just gonna call it Avengers for the sake of avoiding potential confusion. I I think I'm at a D, but I am not gonna push hard for that.
And for those wondering why this character's in this list, I kind of pushed for it because it was like the main villain in air quotes of the Avengers film. He was in charge of the army or supplied the army, I guess, supplied the army. Without this character, that movie wouldn't have happened. So it seemed important. But it was a group. We all agreed to have him in there. I have him at a D, pretty much for the reasons Ryder put forth is he accomplishes goal of being the antagonist supplying an army and had some interactions with Loki, the actual villain of Avengers. But I'm also not solid. Sprinks, if you want to bash him more to convince, there's a chance for me to move.
Yeah, I'll say the same for me.
You
Feel
said the
free to
main
convince
villain
me.
of Avengers. I don't agree with that. I think Loki is. It's kind of like the situation of Obadiah Stane is the main villain of Iron Man, and you're going with the gun supplier who wants Tony to make a missile, and you're saying like that's the main bad guy in this situation. I feel like that equivalates to here with the other of he's just there and he's a speaker for Thanos, which kind of Ebony Maw does later in Infinity War. He's kind of just the lesser version of that, and I still think Loki could have done that with Thanos since Thanos is in Avengers at the very end, but they wanted it just to be the end and not actually speaking role kind of thing because then it would ruin the end credit. But they actually have a speaking, but I still think it was I see the reason it's needed. It's more for Loki's character on how he's going about everything of what he's doing. But to me, it just makes the Chitauri speaker here, just kind of eh.
He is no disagreements. I don't know. It's just like without this character, Loki wouldn't have had an army to use. They would have had to come up with something else. Because Loki versus the whole Avengers is nothing. He wouldn't stand a chance. Well, depending on how they play with him, I guess, because he could just run away with clones or something. But actual combat, he would be bodied by the Avengers. So they needed an army. And the speaker's the gateway for an army.
That's two D's and a half. So D it is.
Hey, someone could always move them in post for their one move.
That is true. I'm next, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Next on this list is the reporter Christine Everhart. It's interesting to think about her character because I think she serves her purpose. I don't really have much care for her as a character. Um, I like that she comes back as a sense of continuity. She's with Justin Hammer in Iron Man 2. And I think that helps to make her feel more grounded into phase one. Makes the Iron Man movies feel a little bit more tied together. Um, but again, I just don't have any real like for the character. Um, I think what she's there for though, is what her purpose is. I think she does a good job of in the sense that like she not only does she serve the continuity purpose, she also serves to like give us a quick snapshot of who Pepper Potts is as a character in Iron Man 1 and a quick snapshot of who Tony Stark is in Iron Man movie. Like, we get the exchange of the Da Vinci of our time, absurd, I don't paint, and then the Merchant of Death. So you get world building spouted from her. So she is an effective tool. Um, I'm probably at a slow C for her.
All right. I have her a C as well. To tack on what Ryder was saying, which I agree. She's also the catalyst for the "I am Iron Man" uh, quote.
Oh
Without
yeah, I
her
can't forget that.
picking and probing at his alibi, his speech, he wouldn't have delivered that line. So I know it kind of sounds shallow using that as a reasoning, but I do think she's a useful tool. She bounces off of Tony pretty well,
Oh,
and
I
I have
forgot all
her
the
at a
whole
C.
Gamera, the gold mirror stuff. So she's one of the people to confront Tony to send him on the journey of like going to destroy his weapons.
Yeah, giving him the photograph and stuff.
All right. Well, I have her as a D. I don't care about her.
I knew that's what you were gonna say. uh, once you described Betty, I'm like, yeah, that's where she's gonna lie.
Yeah, but 2 C's and a D.
Anything to you don't want to try to yank one of us? Writer said he was a low C.
No, it doesn't. It's you two see her as the usage and tool she is for other characters and everything to work out in the story and everything. I just see her as who she is. Don't care at all. She's kind of a prick in Iron Man 2 to Tony and knows exactly what she's doing with Hammer. And the first one, she's just kind of whatever. It's just like someone has to deliver the news, and it's her.
Up next, unless you got swayed, Raider.
No, I'm still
No.
C.
Okay. We have Clint Barton, aka Hawkeye, going with Clint for C. Actually, he's not really referred to as Hawkeye in this, anyways, right?
I don't.
He's called
You know what?
Hawkeye in Avengers, but not
was.
really.
I
Uh,
I don't think so. I don't think he's
Yeah, I
ever
don't
called
remember
Hawkeye.
that. Yeah.
No, it's on the screen when he's like it has the image of him and
As like his
Natasha in
agent.
Budapest.
That's still
Yeah,
not being
it's like
called.
yeah. Well, the closest we get as is he gets mostly called Agent Barton, and then we have he's referred to the Hawk, like the hawk is up in his nest.
Yes,
Yeah.
both they're all very close, but none of them are calling him Hawkeye. The only time
Not
Hawkeye's
verbally.
ever said in the whole MCU, I think, I don't remember if it's said in the Hawkeye show, I haven't seen it in a long time, was in Endgame, and he called his daughter it.
Yeah, I don't remember Hawkeye show if it's mentioned. Yeah, I would imagine it probably is. But yeah, we're going with Clint Barton on the next one. I have him at a B. Pretty much the same reasons I gave with Black Widow, where he bounces off of her very well. He's very important for Avengers because he takes out the helicarrier and does a lot of the grunt work for Loki. His, I guess, setup in Thor is it's present. We can look back like, all right, they set up the character. That's cool, but there's not much to it other than he's an agent that uses a bow and is quippy and funny. So I have him at a B. Solid character.
All right, I have him as an A. I have him just on par with Black Widow. I think the screen time isn't everything for just how much Black Widow has in Iron Man 2 versus Clint in Thor. But I think everything in Avengers of being brainwashed, coming to it, his whole conversation with Natasha, what he contributes to the team, I think it's very easy to go with and very quick and feels natural. Like being that he's like the character with the less amount of time to get bonded with the team, yet he's just there at the Battle of New York and works well with everyone. I just have him as an A.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same range with you two. I'm been bouncing between an E and an A for Hawkeye. I think the only thing that would keep him at an A for me is that he doesn't have as much time to introduce him and get to know him as Black Widow does. That being said, I do think his brief appearance in Thor is still used very effectively. Um, I think I think it can work. I think it works. I do think there are some parts of his story that might be on the rushed end. His recovery, for example, so he's can also be at the Battle of New York. I think that's a little bit rushed, but I do think that scene is extremely well done. Um, I hmm, I'm at a high B, low A, and I think I'll land on A, I think.
Yeah, I'm not going to push or try to pull. I'll stay at a B, but I'm content with the average of an A here.
Okay, next up is Darcy Lewis.
Uh,
Writer, do you know who Darcy Lewis is?
yes.
Okay,
Mm.
there was an there, so just
Yeah. No, yeah.
I have Darcy Lewis as a D. She's kind of like the Christine Everhart. She's got a little bit of funniness, but there's a group in what she's with Jane and Selvig, and I think she's the lesser of the whole group. I think she really shines in WandaVision, but in Thor 1, not like nothing really. I don't have her as an F because she does have some funny bits and adds to the group, and but she's not very informative, and she's just there as like a joke, like let's tase the God of Thunder, like haha, that's funny. So Yeah, that just gives her the bump from F to D for me.
Funny enough, because I think I'm kind of thinking of my trend. I actually have her at C. I think she's lesser than Christine Everhart in terms of her purpose to the story. That being said, I think her comedy bits add a little bit more. I like the role she plays in the group dynamic. It's a way to more naturally bring up questions using her between Dr. Selvig and Jane bouncing off of each other because she's a surrogate for the audience. And I think that they use that effectively well. Um, I do think that some of her running gag bits are pretty funny. Um, but as a side character, I think she does okay. I can get the D with this one, but I'm still with a C for now.
Yeah, I'm on the fence as well. I have her as a C, but I feel complacent in giving a D too. I'm just battling between her and Christine right now because we have Everhart, Christine at C. Am I fine with them being separated? Uh, yeah, I'm fine with her being in D. She is funnier and has more of a presence than Christine does, but Christine does have more weight to the story. So I'll go with D.
Yeah, I think the most Darcy has in terms of presence to the story is funny. I think between is tasing Thor and also like being seeing the pictures and noticing. So she knows this is small things to help move push the story along, but it's nothing so dramatic as like being handed photographs of your weapons being responsible for the destruction of a town. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm still in a C, but I'm not begrudge a D.
Okie doke.
Um, all right, and that would move us neatly along into Dr. Erskine.
Yes, it
Um,
does.
yes, it does.
Which we're going
Sorry,
with
yeah,
doctor for the
Yes,
D
a couple.
instead of
We got a couple
Doctor Banner
doctors.
or
Yeah.
something. Okay,
yeah.
here's what
Got a
was
few doctors
chosen.
coming.
Hey, I already
We
touched
got we
on it
got
earlier.
yeah, got a
Yeah,
few doctors coming. No strange, but a few doctors coming. So Erskine, is a classic mentor archetype figure. He is an archetype I think executed to perfection within the MCU. They flush out his character, they flush out his impact on the world, they flush out who he is, they flush out his importance to Cap's journey. And I without him, I don't think Cap's journey or Cap's movie would have been as felt as meaningful. Um, because he is the one who gave that kid from Brooklyn a chance. And uh, I think there's a lot going on with him between his dynamic and how he's related to the villains in that story as well. Um, Stan Tucci does a great job as performance as well, so I have a lot of enjoyment with this character. I very much think the humor lands. I'm at a high A, but I can be talked higher, so I'm at an A.
alrighty.
Can be talked higher. Interesting.
I can be
I
talked higher if someone goes higher.
Yeah, I was like, I don't think you'll have to worry about that. I have him at a B. I think he is very solid for what he is and what he brings to the table for the whole mentor angle and for Cap's character growth and progression as becoming a superhero. But this is a tier list, and we're pitting characters against each other, and I can't see him higher than a good number of other characters that we will be covering, and I can see him with some potential Bs. So I have him at a B. He's well executed and stuff. I like him. I don't love him, so I feel comfortable with a B.
Well, I think Dr. Abraham Erskine is also a good, solid B. I think he plays his part right. He's liked, but he is not that prevalent comparatively, and a little nick of the Incredible Hulk connection.
That's true. Yeah, you guys make some excellent points. I'm still I'm at a low A now, but I Still going to be A for Erskine.
All right. E for Erskine. Up next, we have another doctor in the house, Dr. Selvig. And I was bouncing around a few being more than two letters for this guy, but I did land on a B for Selvig. I was considering C and A, but I'm on a B for him. He's around. He's in Thor. He's in Avengers. He is pretty pivotal in Loki's plans in Avengers by constructing the Tesseract device for the portal. And we've been debated on his scene with Loki at the end of Thor, but at least they established groundwork that he's at least in Loki's eyes in some degree. So he does have setup for his involvement in Avengers in whatever manner it may be. And at least in Thor, he's the knowledgeable one on Thor, on Norse mythology. He gives Jane breadcrumbs that she can't pick up on with Thor. So I think it's good to have that type of character with a fish out of water story like Thor. So I want to be.
I also have Dr. Selvig as a B. I think he's well liked. I think what he does in Thor is very protective of Jane, um, as kind of like a father figure approach, but also being very informative and of Norse mythology and kind of not being the oh, what's the word? Not cynic, but like against the idea of Thor being actual Thor. Um, so I like all that in Thor, and then in Avengers being like the mind controlled with Hawkeye situation, but seen of a different light, but being smart enough to put in a way to shut it down. So he's still being like smart as he is smart, but working for the bad guy. So I think that just helps him of what he does. Um, so yeah, I have him as a B. I like Erskine more, but Selvig has a lot more screen time and a lot more to him than Erskine.
Selvig is probably the only side character on this list that I was considering putting an S, I think. I
It's
have
a bit
talked myself
wild.
out of that one. I know. And to be fair, that's a lot to do with the actor. I have a lot of subjective love for Stellan Skarsgård's acting. Um, and mind you, that's me riding on the high of a lot of his, what I think is some of his best work.
Yes, but this isn't the greatest of his acting.
No, but I think he's still wonderful in the part he plays. I'm at an A. I think he probably still has my favorite scene in the first Thor movie, which is him and Thor going out for drinks because Thor is feeling directionless, so he gets to play a bit of a mentor figure to Thor because Thor is absentee his father figure because he thinks his father doesn't love him and also thinks his father is dead. Um, so there is a lot to write on with that character. You get to see his attachment to Thor is what connects kind of what is part of the reason that Thor ends up staying outside of Jane as well. And a lot of that film is him bouncing off between Jane and Thor and stuff like that. But I really, really loved him in Thor. I pity him in Avengers, in the sense, in the character, not necessarily the writing. I think the writing is fine. Um, you get the sense that, but going off of Thor, you get the sense that he's being used for his intelligence, and it's kind of heartbreaking to see the way he's been twisted. And you kind of feel that when he realizes what he's done when he wakes up from the mind control. Again, that's just in the acting. That's not necessarily like any dialogue from that. Um, I think he's a fantastic character, so I'm still at a solid A for him.
All right, 1A, 2Bs. Next up, we have Dr. Zola. I think Dr. Zola is a C. He plays his part cool. I think he's casted real well. And just for first Avengers, so phase one only, I think he did pretty well. the timid but working for the bad guy, but know he works for the bad guy, and see how powerful everything can be. Yeah, I think a C is fitting.
Yeah, think I'm gonna C as well. I'm thinking of my two favorite scenes with him. My first scene is that I think about is the interrogation between him and Colonel Phillips. Um, and I think that works particularly well because you get a sense of why he works for Red Skull, because it's he believes that Red Skull can do what he intends regardless of what uh his insane beliefs are. And then the other scene, which is more subtle, which is when Red Skull is about to kill the ambassadors from Germany. Um, and when he starts powering up all the tech, there's a moment where it kind of the camera lingers on him, and you see that what Red Skull, like, he notices what Red Skull is about to do, and they're about to essentially, they're not going to be fighting a revolution against the Third Reich, but they're going to be like independent then from the Third Reich, because is that killing the ambassadors means they're cutting off that sort of supply chain and stuff like that. Um, and then, so I think it's a good bit for his character because I don't think he was 100% bought in, but at that point he realized he was kind of trapped. Um, so yeah, Zola I think is a solid C.
Right. I liked seeing him as a scientist, not just scientist, but someone that works with like mythological powers and works with the Germans. And of course, I'm talking about Dr. Zola from Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Uh, I had to do it. He's like the same guy. But in this, I agree with everything you guys said. I had him as a B, but seeing our other Bs, I don't think he belongs. So I have him at a C.
Ooh, three
I think one of
C's.
the things, yeah, I think one of the things that holds him out of B for me is his insane plan or attempt to kill Cap. Like, I still don't
It's
understand why
gray.
he was put. Yeah, I still don't understand why he was put in charge of strategic planning. Like,
Oh,
that
that
still doesn't
part.
make any sense to me.
Well, that's more Red Skull uh, on him, less about
That's on Red
Zola.
Skull, but I mean that I still blame Zola a little bit for that because Zola's still high enough on the tier list, the tier of like leadership that he could have probably put someone more strategically minded to put a plan together, specifically on strategics and tactics and stuff like that. But he didn't, and I take issue with that.
Yeah, the way I was saying was on the train because we had a whole debate whether it was a trap or not. That was something.
Yeah, he's not a B for me because I just don't like him that much.
All right. That will lead us into Emil Blonsky, Abomination. Uh, man. Uh, I think he's a funny character. I don't think he's a good character. Um, I think he's a D, possibly lower. I think General Ross functions more as an antagonist in that film that he does. And when he does his switch, it's not that it's sudden. It's just there are parts that just don't make sense because I'm not 100% sure of how the serum is affecting him. Um, and he makes like I said, even no matter how the serum is affecting him, I just don't buy that he would just straight up walk up to the Hulk and say, "Huh, bet you can't hit me hard enough to break every bone in my body," and he did. So it's essentially what happened, and I struggle to reconcile that with the quote unquote slowly losing your sanity because he's not insane at that point. Um, you Yeah, I have a lot of issues with Emil Blonsky as Abomination, so I'm at a D.
I I have him at a C, and the reason for it is I don't think he breaks character other than him being stupid like that. What are you going to do to me? I do think he is a good antagonist against Hulk, but my biggest thing on him as a negative is the whole final conflict. We talked about he's still cognizant when he's Abomination, and he doesn't fight like the best soldier ever that General Ross needed to take from
Oh,
I
yeah.
forgot
Yeah.
which England or whatever.
Oh, yeah,
Uh,
it's a Russian-born Green Beret from the UK on loan to the United States military that somehow got a fucking secret U.S. military super serum injected into him. It makes no fucking
yeah,
sense.
so he's the best soldier ever created, and yet he fights like a bar brawler against Hulk. It doesn't make sense. So I'm at a low C for him because I still think he is utilized decently as an antagonist. I don't think he fails in that department, but I don't think he does very good.
All right. Being that this is phase one Emil Blonsky only, I have him at a C. I think he does his part. I kind of agree with the writer. There are parts. It's pretty funny. His delusional confidence that he can take on the Hulk is quite.
I might have laughed out loud when that scene happened.
And it might be a hot take. I think I like his design in this more than like in Shang-Chi. Even though the Shang-Chi
I
one is more
prefer it,
comic accurate, but
which
yeah,
is surprising. You usually go for comic
I
accuracy.
usually do. But the whole fin fish look, Creature of the Black Lagoon thing just doesn't play off for me.
Interesting.
I like the whole
I
bony
think the
spine and elbows.
Yeah, I think the other note I might add on to this is that because he's cognizant and he's trying to look for a good fight, I don't understand why he's ripping and tearing through civilians.
And they're very threatening. Okay,
Yeah, I guess. But
the
like I said,
numbers are
they're not.
threatening.
It's just something that's not balancing with what they're trying to give me with this character, which is kind of why I think he's in D for me anyway.
But
Yeah,
that's
he's cognizant, but we don't know how cognizant because of how
that's
screwed
true.
up his mind
Yeah,
is.
and like I said, that again, that's kind of one of the issues with the film is that that's not made clear. The level of cognizance is not. We know it's degrading, but we're not sure at the rate it's degrading, and I think that is a flaw of the film that unfortunately affects the character.
Yeah, I agree with that. Up next, we have Colonel Phillips. We got the alphabet wrong with General. We did General here, so we'll go with General Phillips on our tier list here. He feels like
Yeah,
a
honorable
general.
mention. Yeah, he's better than Ross. I'll take him.
Yeah, he has a commanding presence. So we got Chester Phillips up next. Probably one of my more controversial ones. I have him in S tier. Tommy Lee Jones is hilarious, and I want more of Colonel Phillips in the MCU. Problem is, he doesn't really have a place anywhere. But I enjoy every moment he's on screen. So that's heavily subjective oriented. Objectively, he doesn't break character. He's very pragmatic in like how he runs the the military, essentially. Like Steve's like, go save him. He's like, we'll lose more than we save. It's not worth it. He does the hard math. He's blunt with Carter, and he gives her opportunities to change her minds on things. So he's not super stern. Um, his caution towards Steve being a candidate, I think, is a good thing to put in there because everyone's been like pro Steve. You had Erskine, you have Carter, so it's good to have him as the opposing side. It's just, I think he's well implemented, and I realize this is probably high, but that's where I have him.
S is crazy. And S is crazy for Chester Phillips. I get it though from you. I have Chester Phillips as the better Darcy of the team, where he's the comedic but makes more sense and actually has more well-rounded establishment of the team of what's going for the character rather than just kind of like quippy little lines. Um, and I think he's casted well, and I think he plays it off very well of what he is. I have him as a B.
Oh man. Uh, well, I love Colonel Phillips. I love him to death. He's a good character. I again love all the humor. I think he fits into the group very well. But matching where I had the few mentors and doctors that on this list that have been bumped down, I have him in an A. Because I think he's very serviceable as a side character. He's very important for world building aspects. He has a very commanding presence, and uh, he it has a antagonistic role, but never crosses over into antagonist. You get a sense that he's just trying to do the right thing, uh, um, the right way. He's trying to save as many lives as possible, which is why he's refusing to go on a rescue mission to lead a rescue incursion into Hydra, occupied territory, because he wants to preserve his manpower and stuff like that. So he very much cares about those under his command. He's very intelligent. He doesn't reprimand Steve Rogers when he's saved everybody in behind enemy lines. He doesn't reprimand him. He lets him retain his status and incorporates him as a captain properly into the military, which speaks to his understanding as well of internal military politics and stuff like that. And I quite like his character a bit. S is a little too high for me, but I get why at least Crimson put him there. But no, he's at an A for me.
All right, SAB, that's an A.
But for record, you're still B. Like you haven't been turned.
Nope,
This
I'm
is
still B.
for average purposes. All right. A average.
If he was played by not Tommy Lee Jones, I'd probably have him as a C, maybe.
He wouldn't be an S for me, that's for sure.
Tommy Lee Jones definitely elevates the
He
character.
made the role. Yeah.
All right, next we have an actual general, General Theodore, quote unquote, Thunderbolt Ross. This is
I
going.
did call him Thunderbolt Ross, so
It's one of my pet peeves of the Thunderbolts movie. This phase 1 only, because boy, I like him in Civil War. And I guess the Brave New World to include that too. Damn, I think for what he is in the Incredible Hulk, I can already know where Ryder's gonna put him. I'm gonna put him at. You know what? He does a lot of stupid things. I have him at a D.
Nice. To no one's surprise, because I don't really hide my disdain for this character. He's a complete idiot, and is responsible for a lot of the drama that happens in that film because of his own stupidity that he never seems to be able to recognize. All I can say is going forward, I'm happy he has a desk job. I feel safer that he has a desk job if I lived in the MCU. His connection to Betty Ross and Bruce Banner, that personal connection, is probably the only thing, as far as I'm concerned, holding him above an F tier. I think he's a terrible general. He's a horrible military officer. He's makes so many blatantly stupid decisions. The funny part that's sticking out of my mind right now is the fact that he personally steps out of the van to let Bruce Banner know that he's there in person to catch him, instead of just hiding in the van and letting Bruce run by and they can just trank him as he runs by.
Only to then
Where's
just
the
get back into
sniper
the van.
unit?
Yeah. Where's my warhogs or whatever? Where's my vehicles? I'm like, dude, I don't know why. You're the general. You should have fucking called this shit at the start. The only thing that works for him is his personal connections to Betty. I think so that those are some of the stronger scenes in that film. Same thing with Bruce. Like, if you took him from me, I'm gonna dissect you and put you in the deepest hole and whatever. You will never see the light of day. He has moments. I don't know why he has access to fucking the Erskine serum in phase 1, because he's I don't think he would. I think Shield would, and he's not affiliated with them. So he comes with a lot of problems with world building, plot, character, and again, I'm still like, I want to put him in F. I really do. The only thing that's keeping him of water is just the personal connections between Betty and Bruce, and I think that's just enough to keep him out of F, because I really want to put him there.
I'll also give William Hurt, may he rest in peace, I think was wonderfully cast as General Ross.
Oh yes.
And after seeing Brave New World with Harrison Ford taking place, I think William Hurt still did better.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Brave New World yet.
Yeah. From comparison, I do think Harrison Ford does okay for a version of Ross, but I do think William Hurt owns the role, and I think his role in the future of the MCU will elevate his tier list grade.
For me, I started this with a C. I am landing on a D for everything that was mentioned. I would like to remind you, Ryder, at the end, if you have nothing to really change, you could always lower him to an F.
That's true.
Oh. So yeah, I agree. D. D's across the board for General Ross.
Whew, all right, good. That's I did not want him in C or up. And I guess that would lead us into next Grant Ward from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
So I guess
D.
with this quote unquote phase 1, in
Quote
case those
unquote
who
Phase 1
haven't seen
of the podcast.
our Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. coverage, and they're like, why is he here? Just
Yeah, well,
our
we
Phase 1
covered him.
podcast coverage,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
had Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. pilot.
Yeah, we did the pilot, and I stand by what I said on the pilot. I don't really care about anybody in that show. So going just based off the pilot, I have no other content to work with for Grant Ward, because I have seen the first few episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I think I mentioned this at the start of the coverage. Wasn't enough to pull me in. Wasn't enough to make me care about Grant Ward now. I think he has one entertaining scene that I'm like, that was a little funny out of that episode. Again, D, teetering on F for me. I don't have any nostalgia. I have no care for Grant Ward.
Here comes our largest gap. I've tried to divorce him from the show because I've seen like at least 5 seasons of the show. I know his progression as a character and everything, and trying to isolate it to the pilot, I still enjoy him. I think his interactions with Coulson and Coulson's kind of lazy rules, opposed to him being more by the books killer. The whole interrogation scene with Sky is funny. His growth from the beginning of, so do you want me to neutralize her, to then him with Mike at the end with the sniper actually listening to Coulson and waiting to the absolute last second instead of just taking him out when he could. I think he's interesting. Well, interesting might be much for the pilot, but I think he's well-rounded in the pilot and intrigues me enough. I have him in an A. I know it's not going to be the consensus here, but that's what I have him at.
all right. I'm with Ryder. Who cares? I don't care. Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. didn't really make me care about anyone. I have him at a D.
Let me convince you guys.
Good luck.
Okay, so are we going to like a C average then?
With 2 Ds and an A, it would be a C.
Yeah, that
All right.
sounds like right.
I can live with it, knowing how you guys feel about it.
All right. Well, I need to write down a potential character
All
I
right.
need to move down later.
You always have your chance to move them. You never know. But that puts Grant Ward C.
Up next, we have the one and only Happy Hogan, and he's an interesting one because as of phase 1, to me, he's a very supportive employee slash friend, Tony, and he gets a lot more throughout the MCU in general. But in here, there's not too much to him. He tries to help Tony wherever he can with advice. He trains him fighting. He even goes off to help Black Widow infiltrate the place
Armor
where
Industries.
Whiplash was. So he's proactive in events. He's a helpful friend. But I just cannot muster up putting him in an A. I have him at B.
Okay, well, that's fine with me. I also have him at a B. think he's fine. Well
All
liked,
right,
but he doesn't do much.
Yeah, got a real controversial take here then. B.
Oh,
Ooh.
you got me going there.
Yeah, I thought it'd just be funnier to build the suspense for that one. But yeah, no, Happy Hogan, good supportive character. A lot of his character moments are flushed out in like the tiny bits where like even when, he no longer works for Tony Stark specifically, he still like shakes his head at Stark like, no, that's not a time for him making a joke when he's in Pepper's office. Like, so he's still being a supportive friend even then when he's not his employee. So it's stuff I like that I think really attaches me to the character. And spoilers for Phase 2 coverage. Man, does that tank specifically for one movie and then comes back later on.
I'm surprised. I thought one of you would have given him an A. That's I was a little
I think
surprised.
if anyone was going to, it would have been a writer.
Yeah.
For the connection to Iron Man. But I mean, just the scene in Iron Man 2 of him fighting the one goon while Black Widow's doing all the other things, that's funny.
Yeah,
It's
it's
just-
solid comedy right there. And
Trying to
also
avert his eyes in the car. Pretty much all of his
Yeah.
widow interactions is pretty funny.
Yep.
We don't need the joke of, you got a badge? Where's your badge? Because that's later.
Yes. We have setup for that though in this.
All right, next up we have Heimdall. Doesn't have a lot in this one. Phase 1 with just Thor. Just very protective of Asgard and sticks to his role. I like the whole with Loki being king, and he goes, well, if Odin's no longer king, don't really have to follow the rule, and immediately tries to kill Loki. Think that's pretty badass.
Goes for the goal. Got to give him respect for that.
Yeah, and I think because of that, because he doesn't really have anything really to him, I think that keeps him comfortable at a C for me.
So I'm kind of teetering with you there, Sprinks. I think he's a solid character. I think he has his best moment. I have a kind of a story, I guess, to tell for Phase 2. There's an action sequence that he's a part of that I actually based one of my own writing works off of. Um, but I think here he's a solid character. The only real issues I think that come up with him has to do with the how Loki's powers work, which we've talked to death about, like how he's able to hide himself from Heimdall's gaze. And I think using that damage does affect him a little bit, but not enough to move him from C, I think. I think he's a very solid character. He helps out the Warriors 3 and Sif when they're like, how do we get to Thor? And he's like, I can't help you. I am sworn to oath to protect the king or whatever. And he just leaves them his sword so they can do it themselves. So he has his own set of moral codes. He has a song set of moral code to him. He's the one. Probably Odin specifically asked him to look after Thor because the way he's looking at Thor when he's failing to lift the hammer, you kind of get a sense of sorrow from him because he loves Thor in the way that almost Odin does. Almost, I get that sense from him. But again, not much to him other than I think character stuff I can read into his scenes and the potential problem. So I have him at a C.
Yeah, for me, I have him at a B. I'm just going to echo all your guys' sentiments, but I do think the biggest nick on him is the blinded by Loki thing not being well established on how that happens. In either Thor or Avengers, as I mentioned, Avengers was the time they could have established how that happened, but they don't. And because, as I mentioned, this is a tier list of these characters competing against each other for a ranking, I just cannot put Heimdall with Blonsky, Zola, and Darcy, and Christina Everhart, for that matter. I
Are they
can't
all in
see it.
C?
No,
They're all in
Oh,
C right
man.
now.
no, Darcy's in D.
Where's my list at? I've been writing this stuff down. Darcy. Oh, no, she is in D. Yeah. But the others, yeah, are C. And I can't do it. I'm at B.
All right, well, that's a B and two Cs.
high C for me, but yes, still a C. Um, all right, that leaves us to Howard Stark. Um, he is an interesting character in Phase One. Where the only time he's actually like alive and moving about is in the first Avenger, but we get to see him crop up in Tony Stark's Iron Man movies in bits. With I think the emotional crux being the gift of the Stark Expo to Tony. Um, and he is one of the through lines in Phase One that kind of helped hold everything together, and eventually turns into something regarding the Tesseract. Um, so I think he's a well constructed character plot wise. I think he's well established in both iterations of his character, being the older version in the Iron Man films, as to his importance to Stark's legacy, and how he's also important to Cap's start as well. He's the one that makes Cap's uniform and probably is the one that fashioned all the vibranium into the shield. Um, and I think a lot of that it's a lot of it's very good stuff for the character, even though he's a minor one. So I'm kind of bouncing between a B and an A. I think I'll land on a lower side of A, but I will be okay if he ends up in B.
I have Howard at a B. It's interesting because Iron Man 1, you don't really get him, but you get the legacy of him through Obadiah and Tony and just the world talking about the empire of Stark Industries. And yeah, you get the recordings of him about the expo and then his direct talk with Tony through the recording, which is very impactful. Through Captain America, as him as a younging, he's pretty good. He's pretty important for the story. He kind of creates Cap to some degree with Erskine, and we had debates on his character, on his willingness or his steadiness into the piloting scene. I think we all agreed he would be willing to do it, but him going into the combat zone and not dropping off Steve before the restricted airspace was questionable. And I feel like we had one more like debate on Howard and Captain America, but other than that, he's pretty solid. So B for me.
Anywho, for me, Howard Stark. Being that it's including First Avenger and all the stuff he does in that, because that's a bigger role for him opposed to the kind of stuff in Iron Man 1 and 2. I think that does benefit him a bit more up than what I would think. So I have him as a B.
So more than what you would think being like a C. What part of him being Cap elevates him?
Being more to the team and inclusive, and how he functioned and his relationship with Cap and how that went without being like fully there all the time. He wasn't like every mission, upgrading the Howling Commandos where he possibly could have, but it doesn't cut to that. Just kind of him in the war room and what his efforts are being this scientist. So I don't know. It made it a little interesting in that part. Without that, I think it would have been lower.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say First Avenger definitely benefits his character.
Yeah, certainly.
So that brings us to a B.
Yes, B for Howard Stark. Up next, we have Iron Man, aka Tony Stark, aka the Merchant of Death.
Give each of our time.
Yes, kind of, but don't paint. So I have a feeling I know the directions this is going, but I have him at an A. Purely, I think it's on S because of my subjective element. I like Tony a lot, but I don't S tier him. In terms of objectivity and his character throughout his appearances, we talked about his growth as Tony in Iron Man 1. And I mean, the Iron Man 1's iconic. spawned the entire MCU with its success. With Iron Man 2, he's still consistent. We kind of just got faced with crummy villains in that film, kind of the sore spot. And then in Avengers, they do a lot with him having Cap there to butt heads with, and Nick Fury to butt heads with. We see he's progressing the arc technology and going for green energy. His suits are progressing. He's learning, evolving, being more of a humanitarian with the green energy concept. So I think they've done excellent with his character. So I could buy being maybe moved to an S, but I'm at an A.
I respect your answer, and I understand your answer. For me, he's an easy S. Like, maybe easier than saying Cap is an S. He's, of the Phase 1, he is the pivotal Phase 1 character. So, easy S for me.
I'm not shocked, and I'm not shocked about what's about to be said too.
Yeah, I won't deny. When we made our tier list and characters of who we're going to put on here, there were only two characters that I thought easy S. That was Cap, and that was Stark. Tony Stark, Iron Man. I think his origin story is great. I think it's, again, I don't necessarily view his having weak villains as a problem. I think arguably the biggest issue with his character is plot armor. I think in the first two films, which is not really much of an issue in Avengers. But that is not enough to drag him out of S for me, because I can view that somewhat separately from all the character traits he brings to the table. He has just so much going for him as a character. He's charismatic, he's funny, he's quippy, but he's also deeply, deeply connected to his character traits to the point where it gets in his way, and it's one of the reasons why he butts head with Cap so well in Avengers and going forward. Um, and yeah, solid S. The other character I didn't have to think much about to going into S tier.
All right, I will move to S. Why not? I'll do it.
What persuaded you, or how did you persuade
I'm just
yourself?
thinking about it and looking at, because I have this thing, and you guys, the viewers, and you guys can look at my letterbox and be, the higher something is or the lower it is, the harder it is to achieve it. And I don't think I have much in the way of S rank on here, so I'm fine upgrading him to actually have some involvement in my ratings or ranking.
All right. Well, in that case, that's a S across the board.
Yep.
Crazy if he gets moved down. Up
I'll
next,
consider that as an active war.
next up we have James Rhodey Rhodes,
War Machine.
War Machine, or yep, aka War Machine. Not Iron Patriot yet. And this is both including the Don Cheadle and the Terrence Howard versions. It's interesting to me how he's not. It's never stated what he's doing in Avengers, or like why he doesn't come to help. It's just like he's not of the Avengers, so he's just never stated. But he doesn't like call into Tony, or nothing's like Pepper keeping him like on the low or anything like this. So that I just find out what his inclusion is in Avengers is just like not caring, especially with Battle of New York. Like, why wouldn't he suit up and be there? But the Terrence Howard one, I think, as Crimson pointed out when we covered it, better chemistry than Don Cheadle for that one, of Tony and Rhodey in that one. But in Iron Man 2, I think he does very well as the friend aspect of the better friend of carrying, like the whole party scene. And so the back and forth like quip humor of the first one, encompassed with the friendship loyalty of the second one, to me has him above a C of just being like the side character. to surpassing a more likable character overall. So I have Rhodey as a B.
Brody is an interesting character. I think he has a lot of great moments to his characters. He's a functional side character as a friend to Tony Stark. Funny enough, I think the best and worst of Rhodey is yet to come. Um, but with what I have in Phase One, I think Terrence Howard has probably some of the more iconic scenes with him in terms of chemistry. That being said, there is a lot of friendship in the list that comes with the second one. I'm bouncing between a C and a B. I think I'm going to land a solidly in a B. I can see the argument for C. There are some issues that crop up around him with regards to the plot, um, but I think his character, just speaking to his character, I think it would be solid B. Yeah.
It was a very solid and easy C for me. Ryder and I have kind of, I don't say butt heads, but had different views on him in Iron Man 2 in regards to his friendship level. I saw him as lacking respect for Tony in a couple moments that we discussed, like stealing his suit and whatnot, and we debated on the merits of it and what it meant for the characters involved. But I do view it as a negative towards Rhodey. And I think Terrence Howard was really good in the role, as we discussed. And it kind of goes with what we said with Banner, with Norton, and what's his name real quick?
Ruffalo? Norton
Ruffalo.
Ruffalo?
Yeah. Where they're still banners, but they're different banners, so the consistency doesn't really work properly. And you're going to get that with any actor swap of anything, really. There's going to be a change. But nonetheless, the changes in the film, and I do think our two roadies are two different roadies. They might not be drastically different roadies, but I do. It's different and view that inconsistent. So I have him at a C.
All right, the two Bs and a C.
Unless anyone got converted.
I did not.
I did not as well.
Right.
Oh, right. That will move us into Jane Foster from Thor. I am. I think she's a serviceable character. I think she has some amusing lines. There's a lot of good acting bits from Natalie Portman in this in that film, which is ironic, I think, because my mom does not like Natalie Portman's acting at all. But I think she does a good job with the material she's given. Um, I think she has a few strong scenes. I think she's there to facilitate Thor's journey a little bit more and make him be more okay with helps to ground him, I guess, out of his like more war mentality state of mind. And I think she does a really good job at that. In terms of isolation from that, I get that she's a very devoted scientist. Dr. Selga is helping her because of her dad. So there is stuff to work with this as far as her character's concerned. So I can see her if not I know they don't, but if they decided to do anything with her character going forward, I would be happy to move her into B. But as of right now, I think she's a solid C.
All right. I have Jane at a B. She is everything Betty Ross wished she could be. I think the romance built between her and Thor is a believable one, potentially a little rushed, but solid, and I can buy it. I can buy her being a scientist, and I think the way she bounces off of Thor and Dr. Selvig is good. We already talked about Darcy, and she's kind of just there, but she doesn't have much to bounce off of Darcy with.
Darcy
And
gets some one-liners out of Jane.
yeah, so I think she has a good place in the MCU, and just in her own film she was in Thor. So I have her to B.
Okay, I like what you said there, Crimson, that she's what Betty Ross wishes she was. I do like that.
Mhm.
I think Jane is servable, passable, fine. But essentially that, just fine. I have her at a C. She's likable, but she's not. She doesn't do anything that makes me go like, "Oh, okay, that was pretty good," or "That was cool," or anything like that. She's just kind of there as a love interest, but it's a lot more natural feeling with Thor opposed to the Banner and Betty one. So yeah,
I'm thinking on her right now. I can see myself moving her to B. I like what you said about their romance being feeling more real, Crimson. Now I'm thinking about like when he's dropping Selvig off in their like uh RV out back, and her place is a mess because she's living out in an RV because that's where they're chasing auroras of a kind to try and find the Einstein Rosen bridge. Um, yeah, I'm not at quite a debate. You got anything else you want to potentially throw at me, Crimson?
Anything to, so it's mostly the romance angle, I feel, because outside that, her scientific involvement isn't huge. Her scientific discovery discovered Thor. Um, her um, her presence of her journal being taken by Coulson's pretty nice for Thor, because on his mission to get his hammer, he got the book, and I think that built them up pretty well.
Yeah.
Oh,
I,
that's
I
kind of the angle. I think she just helps everything she's in.
Yeah, I do like that they follow through with her in Avengers. Like the Shield moved her because they don't know if Loki's going to come after her.
Yeah, she's not forgotten like Betty.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
my
Yeah,
little I was gonna say my little tick to the romance angle is that she's more interested in the science than the man.
well, that's
Oh,
fine as long
no.
as it's a foundation for what's to come. Mm, I would think I'm gonna stick with a C. That's a hard one. I do want to give her a B, but I don't think I can move her up there.
All right, B and two C's.
So up next we have Jarvis, an interesting quote unquote character. As of phase one, I personally don't really see Jarvis as much of a character. I just see him as a program. Later, he does evolve into something I do view as a character, but as of now, I don't see Jarvis as much of a character. I have him at a C. I don't think he has any character progression. I think he does his job in helping Tony, but in Iron Man 1, when he's testing the icing and stuff, actually, no, that's not the testing. Actually, the fight with Killmonger, Tony's like, let me know, shut up, don't tell me anymore. Of like percent of battery left, and Jarvis said okay, and then he said 2%, and then he dropped, so he ignored Tony. So that's just an inconsistency with the programming. Point out, and
Which
his power levels are also in question because we talked about how Nick Fury hacked him and how Coulson hacked him, and I don't know. I don't think Jarvis is worthy of being very high on this list. I'll say that. So I have him at a C.
All right. I think Jarvis is a bit stale, or maybe like prototype-ish in Iron Man 1. But by 2 in Avengers, I think Jarvis fleshes out to be more dry humored and sense to Tony while also following through. How he gets hacked in was brought up was an interesting thing, but I don't know if that would be Jarvis to develop that, or unless Tony asked him, but then Tony didn't. So I follow that as like a Tony situation because he learns from his mistakes. Um, but I think Jarvis is uh, informative, comical at bits, and one could argue a better friend to Tony than Rhodey. So I have Jarvis at a B.
a lot of it works for Jarvis for me is the the bickering, like, "Oh yes, sir, you're usually so discreet," that sort of thing. Um, I'm kind of in agreement. Iron Man 1 is kind of prototype Jarvis. I agree it's an inconsistency with the percentages thing, Crimson. Um, but I do think he is slowly upgrading Jarvis. I think Jarvis is now, by the time Avengers rolls around, he's already kind of started his more artificial intelligence development because obviously Stark probably doesn't appreciate that Shield can just constantly break into Jarvis, and I think that's one of the reasons why. I assume Jarvis is breaking into Shield, right? That's one of his programs.
I
I
don't think
would
that's ever stated
It's not
no.
on any.
stated.
Something is
The
breaking
only
into Shield, and I'm guessing it would be Jarvis.
Yeah, so the only thing that, like, I'm trying to remember the line. He's like, when he confesses to Cap that he's breaking in, "As soon enough, I'll have every dirty secret that Nick Fury tries to hide." There's a line that he says before that where he's like, I think he's says Jarvis is breaking into all their Shield secure files, or I am breaking into all of Shield secure files. Either way,
Does it say like I
the
already got a
distinction.
guy on the inside or something?
And
I don't think he
that's after
says.
he went to the console and put in the flash drive or whatever he did there.
Yeah. Anyways, all this to say is either way, how I'm misremembering the line or remembering it correctly is I can interpret that Jarvis is the one doing that. So I do think Jarvis has a bit of progression. It's just not um, at the forefront of what's important to the story being told. Because he is mostly reserved to just being a backup AI for a backup basic AI that will grow eventually into a super AI over time. And I do think a lot of that story arc foundation for Jarvis is founded here in Phase One because everybody kept breaking into Jarvis. So Stark probably got sick of that at some point. That being said, bouncing between a B and a C, I think Rhodey has more going on, and I'm probably going to land at. I'm still going to land at Jarvis being a C. I think. Um, he's very, very. He doesn't really do much beyond being the helpful AI to Stark. I think an interesting. My favorite moment with Jarvis is him Jarvis offering to Stark whether he should call Potts before he takes the missile through the wormhole. I think that speaks a lot to what their relationship is like. And if there was another scene like that or something similar to that I can't think of right now, within Phase One, he'd be an easy B. But I think since there's only just that one scene right now, I think I'm at a C with Jarvis.
All right, 2C's and a B. All right, next up there is the Justin Hammer. I think Sam Rockwell is wonderfully cast to portray Justin Hammer, and his half being the antagonist of Iron Man 2, I think very complements that off of Whiplash and makes the movie feel a little more full rather than one or the other being what each character is. And I like that Whiplash is more of the villain against Iron Man, and Justin Hammer is more of the villain against Tony Stark. Um, and he plays it well. He's got the cockiness attitude to him. The everything's fine. Keep it under wraps when things are not fine. Thinks he's the best. Thinks he's better than Tony at parts for weapon manufacturing. Um, I think I'm fine putting him at a B.
Might echo that sentiment because I'm thinking right now. The things that don't make sense to him with me is I don't understand how he's a weapons contractor if his weapons don't work. Uh, at least as far as we're portrayed on the screen, his bigger weapons don't work. Um, and that might be one of the bigger flaws. It's for a good joke, but it still affects the world that he's a part of, and it affects like what his company does and is or supposed to be in that world as a he's sort of replacing Tony Stark as the primary weapons contractor or trying to. Um, But I agree with what you said, and that I think he's an antagonist towards Tony Stark, while Whiplash is an antagonist for Iron Man. Um, it in a weird way, what makes Justin Hammer work is I think he's supposed to be a reflection of Tony Stark before his arc in Iron Man 1. Just less intelligent, is how I would phrase it. Um, so I'm fine with him being as a B for a villain.
I have him as a C. I agree pretty much with what all you guys said. I don't view him as strong. B and a B. So I have a C. I don't really have anything to convince, but that's where I'm at.
It might be a subjective thing too. He seems like a character you wouldn't necessarily
And I
like.
think he's amusing, but I do think he overstays his welcomes with a lot of his jokes. Like they drag on too long.
And okay, and I just see that as the fitting aspect to Justin Hammer, of the keep calm, make jokes, light heart when things are more dire than that, which
And
plays
sure,
into his
but I could
appeal.
also see it as a pacing thing too, though. If a
True,
joke goes on too long, too many times.
like going through all his charcuterie board of weaponry.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's two B's and a C.
All right.
Got quite a bit of
Uh,
B's and C's so far.
it's true. I mean, like, it kind of makes sense. I think, given our other tier lists, right, where we're trying to reserve A and S for like good and great, amazing characters, and MCU getting a lot of average or above characters, I think is as good is a lot of the reasons to why Phase One was as successful as it was, because you have a stronger supporting cast in most cases.
Strong foundation for characters to grow
Yeah.
into being
Speaking
great.
of characters growing, uh, next on the list we got Loki. Um, I think for me, the only issues with Loki are what is I wish I knew where his plan started and ended in Thor, and the limits of his powers, about how he was able to like avoid Heimdall's gaze. I can view that as a plotting issue too, but it is firmly attached to Loki as it is Heimdall. Um, I think he's a fantastic villain for the first Avengers movie. I think his character arc in Thor is heartfelt in a weird way. Heartfelt doesn't seem the right word, but
Emotional.
emotional. You get why he's trying so hard, um, and that continues into Avengers, where he is sort of it. There are lines that indicate that he's kind of forced into that position by Thanos, and stuff like that. Where it's like it's too late to stop everything. I mean, he has tears in his eyes. He's saying that he could be trying to fool Thor, but I do like to think that the best lie comes from something genuine. Um, as far as a villain, I personally think he's the best of Phase One, and it's not close.
I can agree.
I'm bouncing between A and an S. I will land on S for now, but I would be okay if he lands an A.
Yeah. So when I was first preemptively doing my own ranking, I had him at a B, and I talked myself up to an A, as my reasoning for lowering him is more on objective angle, and I feel like it wasn't fair to the character to put him in B. So I have him at A. I think his issues are his powers, either hiding from Heimdall, or we talked in depth in Avengers about, can he go invisible? How does his clones work? Can he see through the clones? How does all that work? And I do think it is important for certain scenes to know at least some guidelines to his powers, because we have zero guidelines. Um, and we talked about how he got involved with the Chitauri and or Thanos, because last we see him, he's floating through space, and now Thanos has given him an Infinity Stone to take over New York and do all that jazz stuff, whatever. but as an antagonist / villain, he fulfills the objective. He's hard. He's a hard villain to beat, and I think I agree with your guys' assessment of him being the best in Phase 1. A.
Okay. Subjectively, I would agree with Ryder and put him as an S because I think Loki's amazing. But something I do really like is that the first Thor movie feels more of an origin to Loki to go into Avengers than it does so for Thor, which is interesting to think of. And I love the mind game of knowing what is the honest approach of Loki's words and what isn't, and what part is scheming, which I just go with everything's a part of scheming, even the honesty, but he's choosing to be honest because that'll change the outcome of manipulation somehow. And I just like thinking about that in the writing or the dialogue of the character in ways of every instance to do such a thing, of how he functions. And I just like all that, but the things of how he get to where he got with the Chitauri, how he came in with Thanos, um, taking over for Odin, and it fell through. Trying to be this, the savior to save Odin to fall through. Um, kind of not doing much in the war or the battle in Avengers, just flying around mostly, not actually like attacking. It was interesting. It was a lot of just like talking and then getting his butt kicked by Hulk.
He's a ruler, not a soldier.
Yeah, he has a whole
Well, I mean,
plan on what to do, which is fine. Like how the Hulk is gonna take down the helicarrier and he'll want to be captured. Um, how his mind controlled Hawkeye is gonna do his thing in Selvig, and the whole plan of that from him devising it, I think, is fine. But when it comes to the battle, it's just kind of like, let forth my army. I'm just gonna sit here, which does kind of seem a little fitting for Loki, just wanting to be on the throne. Um, but he actually does get on one of the flying scooters or whatever and does fly around. So it's more than just watching.
yeah, the interesting thing about the dynamic with Loki versus the Avengers, he can only overpower, I think, 3 Avengers easily, whereas Hulk, Thor, and Iron Man, I think, would give him a good run for his money. I think Iron Man's more of an equal playing field, if because I view Loki as a little bit weaker than Thor, so I think the Iron Man suit would hold up better um, against Loki. But I think that's part of the reason why he's avoiding a direct confrontation after his bout with Thor, because he knows that if they gang up on him as a group, it's game over for him.
True, but he still puts himself out into a battlefield rather than just hiding.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, Thor did kind of force him off the building. He did roll off,
Yes,
but
Thor forced him off.
Thor,
Hawkeye shot him with an
yeah,
arrow that exploded. Hulk kind of neutralized him for a bit. So
long enough for the
yeah,
gang to get him. Yeah,
but
I
so
sorry, you
overall,
finish.
with all of that of Loki, since I do really like him, I have him at an A.
That's totally fair. I think I'm thinking on now like my favorite scene is Loki since we're on it, but I still think the best interrogation scene in the MCU is him is Loki and Black Widow going at each other with their mental sparring match. Because they're both top tier in terms of their intelligence as characters. So
Yes, and they both know what they're doing before they even start talking.
yes, for sure. Um, yeah, I mean I don't know what else I can say to bat for Loki being an S tier. But like I said, I'm totally fine with him in A tier.
Hey, he
So
could move up. We don't know,
it's true. There is potential there.
but that is 2 A's and an S, right, from Ryder?
Yes.
Okay.
So we are up to Maria Hill, who we see in Avengers and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. pilot, because that is included. I have her as a B. We don't get a lot of her in terms of backstory, not a lot of character either, really. But we know she's a very strong agent. She listens to Fury, but she also questions him with like manipulating the Avengers with Coulson's death and stuff. She's competent against Hawkeye. She doesn't get killed by him. She's kind of a higher up in terms of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where they come to her with Coulson's involvement of she's high enough to know about him not actually being dead. So I think
Welcome
they
to
do
level 7.
good. Yeah. So I think they do a good job establishing her as a crafted agent. We just don't know a whole lot about her. So I have her to B because she does a good job at what she does.
I have Maria Hill at a C. I think she's likable, but she doesn't really do much other than feeling like a named agent. Um, her contribute what she contributes is more so getting things of other characters, like asking Nick Fury a question, gets the answer out of Nick Fury to portray what the need was for, or something to Coulson, or anything of that. Like her on her own, there's not really anything of her on her own. The best of that is probably an Agent of Shield, but even so, it's very small. So
And it's related to Coulson, that
yeah,
scene, I think.
I think because what she does and achieves is good. If she was just kind of a name and just shot around, I'd have her lower. But I just have her at a C.
Yeah, funny enough, I'm bouncing between where you guys are. I can see reasons to put her in B. I think I'm leaning more C because we just don't get that much of her. I think the best the, Nick Fury very trusts her a lot. She's going to be in charge of moving all the Phase 2 prototypes out when the Tesseract is threatening to sink the facility. She holds her own against Hawkeye. She's a competent agent on the helicarrier when she's helping Nick Fury defend the bridge. She is a good first officer. She helps introduce like other characters' perspectives with Banner and with Stark. You know, when did you become an expert in thermonuclear astrophysics? And that joke has been run to the ground, which I love that meme still. Um, so I have a lot of subjective love for Hill, um, but objectively, I don't think I have that much to grasp on outside of the basics. I think the worst detriment to her scene is the dialogue that they gave to Grant Ward. I think could have been used in a more character-driven way for Hill to be delivering the dialogue to Grant Ward. Kind of talked about that during our Agents of Shield coverage, and I think that's the only detriment to the part where I'm like, this feels just a really really unnaturally written scene. Where I think those words coming out of Hill in a specific way would have been better. Um, I think I'm at a C for Hill.
All right, that's 2 C's and a B. All right, next up we have, oh boy, what a heavy hitter, huh? We have Mike from Agents of Shield. We didn't write down his last name. I don't know what his last name
Mike
is.
Peterson.
Mike Peterson.
Peterson.
It's Mike slash Michael Peterson.
Oh,
Yep.
Michael Peterson. All right, Michael Peterson. Um, kind of with how we went with Grant. Don't really care. He seems to be, is extremist the right word? Just kind of like, got to do this for my kid, got to go. But then he doesn't really bring up much about his kid after the fact with like the doctor or his talk with Coulson. It's just that, you know, we met
He does
as
bring the kid with him, but like to try and like get him away because he's trying to run away with Sky at the end. So he does
true, but
love his kid,
it feels like
but
him protecting himself, like being hooded and not wanting to involve with Sky and the phone call in his apartment, like all that is like to protect his kid. And then after that just seems to be a jump of like not care or like not, I'm sure it's still driven by that of protecting his son, but it doesn't seem like that's now the goal. And it's more just so like I have powers because that's the thing of the shows, like containing metas. So the flip of that of his character, because it's written that way, I think just went down on him a bit. Um, I'm gonna put him at a D, but I can also see him being an F.
uh, let's see. I am The only thing keeping him out of F tier for me, I think, is his argument with Coulson at the end. It feels very intrinsic to his character. I do think he's consistent. Um, and I think I was edged to care about him a little bit at the end during that his kind of speech and monologue to Coulson about being the forgotten man and in a world of heroes and stuff like that, as Sky puts it. Um, so I think I'm also in a D. I would between the Agents of Shield characters that are already on here, Grant Ward deserves to be F before I think Michael Peterson does. Just going based off the first episode. So I'm in a D for Michael Peterson.
I have him at a C. I think they do a good job making this morally gray character where he's a hero in air quotes, but he does turn bad. Like he kills his boss. He threatens the train station, or wherever. I think they were at a train station. Whatever the final conflict was at, he threatened everybody there because he had the information that he was probably going to blow up and die, and he shrugged it off when Ward told him. So he knew he was justly harming innocents, not just his guilty boss, as he viewed it. So I think they did a good job establishing that, and I do also feel they did a good job establishing his care for his son, contrary to Sprinks' view on it. I do think they did do a good job with that. And his final speech with Coulson, as Ryder said, I think they did a good job writing that. That kind of felt like a Joss Whedon like speech. I could see his involvement there, even though he did write and direct the entire episode. So yeah, I think it's fair to have him in C.
All right, that is 2 Ds and a C.
All right. That will take us into Nick Fury. One of the connecting tissues, I think, across every movie of Phase 1 except Incredible Hulk. I think, he doesn't directly appear in Thor 2. He doesn't exactly appear in Thor, but his presence is felt via Coulson because he's the one that presumably sent Coulson out there. I think he's a strong character. I think he's well written. I think he has some of the funny one-liner bits of "Is the sun coming up?" like in Avengers. That was pretty funny even now. I think I'm bouncing between a B and an A because he's just a solid background character most of the time, and then Avengers brings him to the forefront. I think I'm gonna go with an A for now.
So Nick Fury was one of the few S's I had written down. And this is just of Phase 1. He definitely grows and detracts in later stuff. But in Phase 1, I think they do a good job with him. His very first appearance in the post-credit scene of Iron Man delivers that he has a presence. Not just like that he's there, but he feels weighty. He feels important. And I think that's a good job for the hook of just the universe in general. His involvement in Iron Man 2, talking about his connections with Howard Stark or his knowledge of Howard Stark, and using that on Tony and kind of manipulating Tony into doing what he wants with the Tesseract is great. As Ryder said, he's put in the forefront in Avengers, and we get a lot of him where we see a lot of his manipulation tactics in play, as well as butting heads with the council. And we see he's not just by the books or listens to orders. He follows his own orders. He's a man of action. He's pretty awesome. And then he's not in it, but the consultant short, he orders Coulson to get someone to not get Abomination in the Avengers team. So we do get his involvement in that tangentially. So I think he's great. Subjectively, I like seeing him on screen. So S.
Cool.
One, sorry.
No, you said one something. What?
Yeah, I was gonna say I have a note to add. One of the things I like about Fury is like he is not afraid of Loki at all. So like even he's willing to shoot a gun at him even though he doesn't knows it doesn't work. But also the cage scene where he's like, "You made me desperate. You might not be glad that you did." Like he's
Ant
more than willing to
boot.
spar. Yeah, he's more than willing to spar with Loki in terms of verbal just verbal conflict, and I appreciate that out of him quite a bit.
Well, we talked about him potentially killing Clint Barton as the driver to stop Loki from escaping the facility as well in the coverage. So, yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah, I think he's pretty awesome as well. And awesome starts with an A, and that's where I have him. I have Nick Fury at an A. It's pretty darn good. I just don't see him enough to be moved to an S for me. At least in
What would
phase
you need
one.
more of him?
The I don't know. Something more than he what is shown of him to be for others.
Okay, I don't get what that means.
Like, to me, what he does is to betterment the team of Avengers, whether individually or as a whole, rather than for himself. The only thing that seems like for himself is the talks with the council. But even for the council is defending the Avengers and his belief in them.
For me, I think what comes across as intrinsically, I guess, his personal choice is ignoring the council's orders to trust the team to hold New York instead of the nuke. Like him going out and shooting the nuclear fighter jets, and well, the escort, I suppose, because he missed the one actually carrying the nuke, or they both had one. I don't know, but a lot of it can come across as for that, like he's willing to he's willing to stick it out despite the orders, and that could be considered, defending the Avengers, but that was against orders because he wasn't sparring with the council after they overrid him and made that decision.
Okay. So that's 2 A's and an S.
Yep. Up next, we have Obadiah Stane, aka Ironmonger. Not to get confused with Killmonger.
Yeah, please don't confuse those two.
So, very different characters. I have him as a B, begrudgingly. Uh, he he's very interesting in regards to where he's more complex in the beginning to where he gets less complex by the end. That's kind of the inverse of what usually happens in movies is the more information you get, the more complex the character gets. He gets less complex the more you get. He turns into kind of a cartoon villain by the end, which is
One might
kind
say a
of
comic book
interesting.
villain by the end.
One could say that. But his connections with Tony and Howard, we don't get too much, but with the Howard angle, but we do get some. And I do believe his reasonings. He's greedy, and that's kind of my least favorite motive for anything in any movie. Just greed. But there's a bit more to it than just greed. There's also pettiness that Tony is spearheading the Empire and not him, because he's built it up with Howard. So there was more than just greed involved. And there's actual tension with him and Pepper, like when she's in his office with the drive. You kind of feel that this is an actual dangerous situation Pepper's in. You don't know how it's going to go. And you can tell on a rewatch, which I think is the best part about him, is on a rewatch you can see all the breadcrumbs of him. Oh my gosh, he really was bad this whole time. So I'm at a B.
Okay. Something I wish of Obadiah Stane, and I think that's just Jeff Bridges not fully getting Iron Man 1 and probably not coming back for others, but I think I would have liked in stuff that had Howard Stark of like old footage or conversations or anything that Obadiah Stane was in there. I think that would have been really
Just
cool seeing how
scraps.
close they are.
Yeah.
Or how it's said in Iron Man 1 but doesn't really show up later, and I think that's just because of Jeff Bridges' decision. But I think he's overall fine and a good start villain for the first movie. But you are right, Crimson, that the more that's shown of him becomes more and more cartoony, which is a bit odd, I guess, of that arc on him. So I would, I was thinking C, but I think I'll also go with B.
Yeah, I'm gonna echo the chamber here. I think he's a solid B tier character. I think he's very rushed by the end. I think we talked about the timeline of him having to build his own prototype suit within a time frame for to have the final confrontation and that not necessarily working all well together. Um, I do like the bits of rewatching that you can kind of see that he was bad the whole time. Um, but I think he's only a serviceable villain. I wish there was more to him beyond that. Unfortunately, there isn't. So solid B.
That is 3 Bs. All right, next up is Odin. Or it wouldn't be Odin.
The
Odinson,
Allfather.
just Odin. Odin the Allfather. Again, wonderfully casted as Anthony Hopkins. I think he did great. Odin doesn't really do a whole lot in the first Thor. He is kind of just a big protector, and then he has a temper with Thor and banishes him, and then Loki has a temper with him and puts him in a coma. That's kind of all that happens. So,
Oversimplification of events, but true.
yeah, unfortunately, kind of, because I don't want to be attacking Anthony Hopkins of this sense, but what he does is really great. And I think the greater stuff of him is later on. I have him at a C.
Yeah, I've been bouncing to B and a C for Odin. I think there's enough characters in B that I want to put him. Another characters I think that are above him in B that I think Odin feels more right to be in C. Um, I think the stuff he does is fantastic. Um, he has completely justifiable reason for banishing Thor. I think Anthony Hopkins does that. It's one of my favorite bits of Anthony Hopkins acting of all time is that scene. Um, he does kind of Deus Ex Machina to save Thor when they're both threatening to fall off the Rainbow Bridge, but I don't. It's not as big as an issue with the All Father. Um, I think he's again his scene with Loki also very good. I kind of wish that scene was longer instead of him passing out. I'm totally fine with him eventually passing out, but I kind of wanted that scene to last a bit longer so he can offer some rebuffs to Loki first, because that I feel like Odin's one of the few characters who could get away with rebuffing Loki.
All you get of that is when they're dangling off the bridge.
Yeah, but like I want more of that.
Yeah.
I think if that scene was if there was more of that aspect, I think he would be a B tier character easily. But as it stands, I think I agree. I'm gonna put him in C.
I'm against the grain on here. I have him at an A. Kind of to echo Sprank's your point with Clint and Widow or Natasha. Screen time does not necessarily equal anything. So he might not have the most screen time, but he has a lot of presence, and that's kind of been something I've realized is a pattern with me through this particular list is a character's presence that they carry. I think Heimdall carries a lot of presence when he's on screen, making him more memorable. Same with Fury, and so on and so forth. And I think that definitely applies to Odin. I think every scene he's in is great. The convenience of him going to sleep, I guess, with Loki during the argument, I didn't like when we covered it, talking about it, because that is the catalyst for Loki's entire plan really coming into fruition, being the acting king and all. But excluding that, the way we see him raising Thor and Loki with them as kids and trying to teach them lessons. He doesn't treat Loki different because he's a frost giant, and how he treats Thor when banishing him. I think everything he's in is solid. So I think an A is something deserving of him. I think he's worthy of an A.
Yeah, I think you moved me to B.
Oh, okay. So like 2 C's and an A still results to a B, but ABC is a B.
What moved you in particular?
I think it was your presence argument about Erskine's in a very small portion of First Avenger. Yinsen is in a very small portion of Iron Man 1, but they're both extremely important as far as the characters go. So I think your presence bit moved me.
Yeah.
So next up is Peggy Carter. In isolation to phase 1, Peggy Carter is a love interest to Steve. Um, she's a solid character. I quite like that she's cold. Not she's cold to. She starts warming up to Steve once she starts recognizing his devotion, and like the whole grenade bit scene is, I think, was kind of what really started to endear her to Steve. Um, and then obviously they spend some time together outside of that, but uh her being supportive of him over the loss of Bucky and like the rundown bar that they all had all met in with the Howling Commandos. There's a lot to like about her. I think her biggest detriment is probably taking a live weapon and shooting at Steve in a bunker. I still don't like that. I have a lot of issues with that. We had a huge debate over that in the coverage. And that's the biggest nick to her character wise. Um, I think otherwise, though, she's serviceable, likable, important to Steve's journey in the first Avenger. She supports all his needing to go rescue the other people, among other things. So I think I have her at a solid B.
I have her at an A. I see her as more than serviceable. I think she's pretty pivotal for Steve. Not as much as his care for Bucky, but her involvement delivers a very good ending to Steve in the Arctic. And I mean, it's a powerful scene. You remember it. I mean, it carries weight going forward into the MCU as well, even though she's long. Well, she's not actually long gone yet, but she's not really involved in the world at this point. And I think, yeah, I don't know. I'm fumbling words, but I have her an A.
Okay. I think Peggy Carter is the best love interest of phase 1, above them all. But being still that, I have Peggy Carter at a B.
Out of curiosity, why? Like what keeps her out of A for you? Out of curiosity.
I don't think, in a comparison of tier, I think everyone in A is above her. Essentially, I don't think she hits any of the marks of anyone else.
Is she above the B's we have?
I think she's met with the B's we have. Again, I don't agree with all of them.
Yeah. I don't think I have anything that can sway, so with that.
All right, so that's
B's for Carter.
B for Carter.
We have Pepper Potts, which we had a guest of this season that really said his opinions on Gwyneth Paltrow during the Avengers coverage. Mr. Curmudgeon Critic. And I do kind of agree with his assessment of Pepper Potts. Not to the full extent where he's like, I didn't believe she was a love interest until Avengers. I definitely saw the build up. Even in Iron Man 1, I could see the build up of her getting feelings with him. But I think at the core of Pepper, I think it is actually Gwyneth Paltrow's acting. I do think that kind of lowers Pepper to me. But as a character of Pepper, I think she is loyal to Tony, but she is definitely willing to butt heads with him and be contrary to what he's stating. I think she's a competent CEO. Questionable letting Justin Hammer have his presence at the expo. She would have known about the War Machine suit entrance because you would have to
Be on the
arrange the whole
docket. Yeah.
event. So that's kind of a nick on her, I guess, not getting proper information. And if Hammer just hid that from her, then they should have established. He didn't run that by me. Something, I don't know. So I have the one and only Pepper Potts at a B.
B. Well, I thought mine might be a little bit of the hot take here. Pepper Potts is important, and Tony's love interest. Even though I could understand what Curmudgeon said, where it wasn't until like Avengers where that kind of romance came apart or present more. It does feel like the more employee aspect, which was the big concern of Pepper in the first Iron Man about the dance, um, which I think was the point to show the romance angle of it enough. But it does feel like she's kind of there with Happy or Jarvis or even Rhodey, just kind of being like helpers rather than love interest, or her word helps Tony until Avengers. Um, and then Iron Man 2 of taking over the CEO and the importance of how Tony gave that to her, and then how she runs with it. But she doesn't seem very, what's the word? Gentle, I guess. Gentle with Tony on decisions now that she has the ability to do such things, which to me doesn't feel very comfortably partnered, I suppose, and a little toxic in a relationship, I think. But that's just the dynamic of the relationship between the two. And because of all that, and with the Gwyneth Paltrow thing, I just don't like Pepper Potts pretty much at all. But I understand like her whole need of what she does and everything. So I have Pepper Potts at a C.
I'd like to throw it out there. I don't like Pepper Potts either.
Here's my controversial hot take coming in, being the Iron Man guy. I'm not a huge fan of Pepper Potts. I think again she's important to Tony's story. I like her the most in Avengers, and I like the writing that she's given. I don't. Her performance kind of drags it down for me. Um, Not to the degree that Convention Critic says, but honestly, I'm in the same realm with you guys, bouncing to C and a B, and I think I'm gonna land on a B, but it's a low B. I'm not. I don't hate the character. I just like. I wish they did more with her, because not that the stuff that she has is it's not that it's not important or anything. It's just even when you're having like power dynamic issues with their relationship to the point where it can be toxic. And there's an argument to be said that Stark needs someone to be blunt with him because he isn't used to that. So getting that from Pepper, it can be something integrally important to the relationship. But the problem is that they don't really play up that aspect of the relationship at all to make it feel like it's a part, to make it feel more natural and integrated into their dynamic. So yeah, I'm at a low B.
All right, that is two B's and a C, resulting in a B.
So I next up will be at Phil.
It's
Wait,
Nix's turn.
yeah, I thought so. I was throwing myself off.
You two aren't giving me the patience.
I am. I was cutting him off before he did anything.
Yeah,
All right, next up is, ooh, very curious on how this will go. Phil Coulson, or sorry, Agent Coulson.
Phil. Yeah, his first name is
Yeah.
Agent.
Sorry, he wasn't an A, so threw myself off. what Crimson's going to say is interesting. But I think with phase 1 being kind of the only phase Coulson's in, he's very good, very dry humor, very to the point of a T. I think comparatively with everything else we have right now, and I know I shouldn't fully do that, so I'm not fully doing that, but I do like Coulson. But I do wish Coulson had a little more to him rather than just kind of being present for a dry remark. And it's tough. The things that tack him down, I think, are the shorts. So, like the consultant, I think is fine for Coulson. The Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. pilot, I think, is okay for Coulson. I don't like his training for Sky that much of what he does for a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. But then the funny thing on the way to Thor's hammer, I think, is really weird for Coulson. His decision of his death to play is the point, but it's false. I don't know if that was his doing or Nick Fury's doing, but he was involved. I am more comfortable putting Coulson at a B than I am putting him at an A, I think is where I'm resting on. I can totally be fine with an A, but I'm more comfortable with a B.
So for me, Coulson would have been an A. I would have landed an A. Unfortunately, they undid what I think is one of the strongest emotional points in phase 1, which is his death. I think he's a consistently good background character. The shorts are okay. I find the funny thing on the way to Thor's hammer. I definitely subjectively quite like that short quite a bit, but I think we all agreed there's some issues with it with that short, and there are ways to
It's not needed.
make that. Yeah, there were ways to. No, it's not that it wasn't needed. There are ways to make that short better for Coulson's character. Just adding in little bits like Shield has to come in and cover up that he did this or something like that. Because he's just that kind of person who's going to step in and help somebody. Like I'm totally fine with they wanted to do that and add that as a character trait. It does give him some smarts. It does give him some stuff, but it adds a lot of unnecessary bits that I think also detriment to him. My biggest sticking point with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and one of the reasons I don't like the first episode all that much, shock, shock, surprise, surprise, is this undoes Coulson's death, which I think is the extremely important low point of the first Avengers movie. And I think he's otherwise a competent agent. He's a good through line connective tissue to all the movies. But he was knocked down to B for me.
All right, I have Coulson at an A.
Oh, surprising.
What were you thinking of S?
Oh yeah, from you.
No, Coulson's pretty awesome, but we are limited to the pilot of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., not the whole show. And which Coulson does take goes up and down in that show. I mean, it's 7 seasons long. But what we have here, I think they do a great job with him sprinkling them out through the entire phase 1. I think my biggest nick to him is the Thor's hammer journey, in particular, when having the drop on the bad guys, showing them his gun, dropping his gun, kicking Flower, and jumping off a shelf. I think that is stupid. We tried to work around how that could make sense, but at the end of the day, what happened, and I thought that was really dumb.
Yeah.
For his character, and just in choice in general.
Yeah.
His involvement of pushing the Avengers together through his death is awesome. His line of like they needed something to rally behind or something. Really good final words, even though I butchered them. Very good final sentiment, I guess I'll say. And the fact that they establish him with connections to almost everybody in the Avengers, we didn't really get him with Banner. or Widow, really. But everyone else, we got connections with the big ones, I guess. Captain America, he's a big fan of him, and there's some fun banter, and the trading cards become relevant. He's obviously with connections with Thor and Iron Man. He's consistent throughout. The argument of his death gets undone, I can see it, but it, it almost feels not right to do it without knowing why they undid it. Obviously, we only covered the pilot, but to teach their own, I guess. So I'm at an A.
Okie doke. 2 B's and an A.
All right. And next, that would lead us into Red Skull, played by the wonderful Hugo Weaving. For now, I think Red Skull is by the numbers villain. I have a lot of issues with his intelligence as a character, but I don't hate him as much as I do General Ross. I think he's a great first villain for Cap, and obviously he's an off-brand of the villains of World War II. I'm totally fine with that. I think much thanks to Hugo Weaving, Red Skull has quite a bit of presence in the film. I think his connection to Erskine and therefore, to Cap is also a good dynamic to have in the film. Um, I, it's a personal thing for me. I prefer Hugo Weaving to the actual Red Skull, though I gonna be probably alone on that one. And I totally get why everybody likes the Red Skull comic look, but I'm at a solid, I think, B with the character.
I am with you with the B, and I'm with you with the Hugo Weaving look over the Red Skull look.
Yeah.
I'm on board with that. I agree as well that he's a good starter villain for Cap, and just the setting he's in the 40s. Just, I can't picture Red Skull as a modern day villain. I know they explore that in comics and stuff, but I just can't really picture it now. So I think they did a good job with it. Great job, no, but I don't think he needs to be great. I think he's fine being good. B.
Well, funny enough, I also have Red Skull at a B, so 3 B's across the board. However, I like the Red Skull look more than the Hugo Weaving
Yeah,
blank face.
that's because you're a comic you're a
That's
comic guy.
true. I know the two of you were big on the outfit. What was it? Not the. It was like the straps one versus the black trench coat one, or something.
I don't think I said my opinion, but yeah, Ryder preferred the trench coat over the final Cap fight on the Valkyrie.
Yes,
The suspenders.
it's not a bad outfit, but I mean it's his last fight. Give him his full regalia, you know.
So 3 B's.
Up next, we have Samuel Stearns, aka Mr. Blue, or Dr.
AKA.
Samuel Stearns.
Can't say the other one.
Yeah. So spoiler alert for us formulating this, he was our last edition. He is what forced Dummy out of contention.
Yeah.
We all kind of forgot about him, but he is the last edition.
How could we forget an S tier character?
I know, it's incredible. So I have him at a C. I can be talked down to a D, but I have him at a C. He's another scientist to add to the roster. We have a whole bunch in the MCU. His curious nature is to a detriment, not just to his character in the universe, but I think writing-wise, I had talked about the moments where he really should have shut off the machine or stop the infusions. when he's just standing there, mouth agape for like 2 minutes. It's an exaggeration, but he's not doing anything. He's just watching in awe, and it's to the detriment of the experiment and the safety of pretty much everyone involved. And just in terms of his character, he's subjectively not very interesting and or entertaining. So C, possible D.
Cool. Samuel Stern to me is a goofy character in a quite goofy movie, but with everyone trying to be so serious where it comes across as funny, there's just, I think it's the actor. Something about him just seems like funny in almost every role he does, or doesn't seem to get a serious role. Um, and I think it's just the way he portrays things in acting. I unfortunately don't know the actor's name, and I know Sinister would know it in a heartbeat. Um, but I actually have him as a D. I think his purpose of what he does for Bruce Banner is fine, but going about his way to make all the blood samples when it showed how important the cure is to stop this, and seems quite disrespectful to Banner and the work he's working with him on, and just being in awe and helping Blonsky because threatening of his life, and just like I said never said I wouldn't do it kind of situation. Just it just makes him silly, and his technology, he's like just kicking it and whacking it around like it's failing, and it, I don't know. He just seems a little too goofy for me, so I have him at a D.
I have been bouncing. Again, I completely forgot about him. I had to look him up before we reached the name on this list again. So, um, yeah, Mr. Blue. I think he's relatively important to Bruce Banner's story in The Incredible Hulk. I like the connection he has over the internet. He's just a consultant, more or less, for Bruce Banner to try and fix him. I agree. His sort of goofiness kind of clashes with the very serious tone of the film. Um, I think I'm at a D as well.
Yeah, I'll change to a D.
We talked him into
3
it.
Ds. I mean, like I said, I was on the fence anyways.
Hey, you know what 3Ds mean?
Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dines,
I was gonna say it stands
the
out
hit Guy Fieri show.
3D, but yeah,
I was gonna say it's time to get glasses to go see a 3D movie.
yeah,
That's right.
that was more in the vein, but yeah. All right, next up we have Sitwell, Agent Sitwell, and this is Phase 1 Sitwell, who's quote unquote level 6. Don't know his connection to Hydra, if any. He, gosh, I think he's okay. He's like barely in Avengers. He's most prevalent in Item 47 and The Consultant. Is he in another one? Phase 1 that I'm forgetting?
Isn't Thor?
He's in Thor? Yep, you're right, he is in Thor. I think he's more in Thor than in Avengers. Uh, he's just there. He has a role, it seems weak. He really gets his shining light in Phase 2. But of all of this, gosh, I kind of feel like he's on the Maria Hill thing I had of just being there as like a name and has a few things to do. So I have him at a C.
Yeah, Marie Hill's at a B. Yes, if I recall correctly.
Maria Hill is at a C.
Yeah, C.
Okay. I see. Hearing that makes me want to put Sitwell lower than Maria Hill, but I think I can settle with Sitwell being in a C. My issues with Sitwell. I have a lot of issues with the dialogue in Thor. It's just very clunky. Um, I think that Thor services Coulson better than it does Sitwell. And then Agent Item 47. We kind of talked over the the logistics of him being a field agent. He doesn't really come across as a competent field agent just till that scene happens. I also don't understand how he could just bring people into Shield at the drop of a hat without any process.
Training our background or anything.
Yeah. So, yeah, I do think that is an issue with him. Um, I think his best highlight is in the consultant where they needed to find a patsy and choose Stark. Um, I think I'm okay with him being in C.
Easy D for me. Nothing really memorable of him in phase 1. I think the most memorable thing would be the consultant, but that's supplemental content, and I also don't think it's that strong either. It's there. So easy D, and I don't want him with Maria Hill. I think they're very, very different.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm still brooding on it. I think I'll do D as well. I don't think there's much to him.
All right, that is 2 Ds and a C.
Up next, another Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. character, Sky, aka Spoiler, aka Spoiler. For those who have seen the show.
You could just skip me if you want, but sure.
Oh,
Why would we skip you?
never mind.
Oh,
No, I did skip.
haha, I see what you mean.
Delete.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And also it's giving Sprinks time anyway to do his thing. I'm trying to count 10 seconds for you, Sprinks, every time that
It gets longer and longer.
I know.
Does.
Next up, we've got an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. character, Sky. Spoiler. I don't know her name going forward anyway. I didn't see enough of the show. I assume Sky is not her real name anyway. um, and you know what? I dislike her more than Grant. I dislike her more than the other characters in that show. I have no feeling about her whatsoever. In fact, the first episode actively makes me hate her. So I got her an F. Honestly, I don't. Not a worthwhile character for me.
Boom, a solid F. Not an F out of me. I have her at a B because I can agree she can come off as not a likable character in the pilot. What she does, I think, is good within the pilot. She has the hacker archetype tied to her, and as a writer described, that can kind of be treated as a superhero or a superpower in of itself, depending on how it's utilized in a media. I don't think we got enough yet in the pilot to determine if it's superpower status of hacking or not. But
I would argue it's not a superpower because Shield does find her, and I think that is probably my favorite scene with her is just when Shield shows up at her van.
yeah, and then she kind of alludes that it was on purpose, but you could read into it she's just lying to build up her own presence, I guess. I like how she bounces off Mike because he's her mission, kind of side mission, primary mission being Shield. But I think she does a good job with him, and her banter with Coulson and with Ward, I quite enjoy personally. So I have her at a B. I think she does her job in the pilot, and I think they lay enough groundwork for her to grow going forward.
Okay. I don't hate her, but I don't like her, so I have her at a D.
To a D or a C?
That would be
average
a
to a
D.
D. Yeah.
I have a B, D, and F.
Oh man, I was thinking one of the things I was just kind of thinking on her. I don't like the fact that she figures out immediately that she's on an airplane. There was no way for her to figure that out.
Yeah, you did hate that.
Yeah, I really did. So there, I guess that's not a hacker superpower. That's just a superpower.
Yeah, I didn't like that either.
Up next, we have Thor. One of the actually, I guess
Thor,
spoilers for the rest here. Our last Avenger here, Thor, Mighty Thor. It's interesting now. Yeah, seeing where we've put everybody now, I don't. He's kind of in a weird spot for me. I had him at a B, but I'm kind of now teetering on A B territory. But
Oh, A,
I
B
think
doesn't exist.
So I think I'll stick with B. Willing to convert, but we did talk about how Thor kind of changed slightly from his appearance in Thor to the Avengers. He has this more Shakespearean speech pattern due to Joss Whedon's involvement for Avengers. But in terms of his character actions, I do feel like he's pretty consistent. He, I don't know, he just doesn't have a lot going for him in terms of character progression in Avengers itself. He has he just has to battle with his brother, and it's not like a philosophical battle. It's just a kind of a literal battle. Okay, be good. I don't know. It's just nothing's complex with Thor in this. I don't know. I can't really praise him too much. I feel like he deserves to be possibly an A for some reason. So maybe one of you will sway me, maybe not. I B.
Okay. I have Thor as an A because we haven't hit Ragnarok yet. This Thor, the Shakespearean, I like a lot. I don't necessarily am a big fan of the dyed eyebrows. Um, and I do think the Thor 1 movie, even though it can be a little boresome, that Thor is a little stale isn't the right word, but I don't like the bullheadedness he has, thinking just because he has the wields the hammer, he can do whatever he wants, which is the whole lesson of the first movie. But in Avengers 1, I think he's very good humor bits, his conversation with Loki, his concern about everything, how he just, get Loki to Asgard, and Earth wants to do all these things, and S.H.I.E.L.D. wants to do other things with Loki, and his involvement, and his little back and forth with Hulk, kind of just setting up like who's the strongest Avenger with between their fight. Yeah, I think A is comfortable. If Thor 1, if I liked him more in the first Thor movie, I could see an argument for him being S.
For Thor, I've been bouncing between a B and an A as well. I think he was a solid B at the start, so I'm also teetering a little bit towards A. Um, I think what holds him out of A for me, what holds him out of S as a blanket statement is just I think he takes a back seat to a lot of the other character drama happening in the Avengers, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But I have to read into scenes for their complexity. I think I talked about like why the Hammer didn't answer his call in the Avengers as a reason why it might not have been answering his call, and that's me reading into the script for the character. 'Cause I think he's very. It's cool to see him with the other characters. I think he's very fun to watch, but nothing that's film is overly complex when it comes to him, other than his brother. Um, when it comes to the first Thor movie, funny enough, I view his character arc in Thor is bringing him to a likable character away from what he was at the start of it. So I think by the end you have a likable character in Thor. Um, I think his arc is fantastic. I love all his scenes with Dr. Selvig. I like his romance with Jane. I like his interaction with his brother, that he was still wanting to save him even after everything Loki did, which speaks to who he is. And Thor was willing to give up the Jane in order to save the Frost Giants, a race he was raised to hate, more or less, or he hated them for most of his life. Which I think there was a lot there for the character. I think he's very, very solid. And I think with all that, I might have just talked myself up to A.
You did with me on that last statement of he gave up Jane for the race he despised at the opening. I think that's a good way of framing it. So I'll go with an A as well.
Oh my goodness, is that 3 A's?
It's three A's.
And I was at a B for Thor. I thought that was going to be a controversial take for me, but I was been sitting here thinking on that this entire podcast because I know that would have been potentially a controversial one because he's an Avenger, you know.
Well, we started off with Bruce Banner being in a B pretty early on, so
That was an easy one. I don't think anyone was expecting him to be an S.
Yeah.
no, but I could see him being A. It's just the fact that the Edward Norton one's connected.
That's very true.
Up next, we have second to last here, Ivan. Was it Vanko? Vanko?
I think.
Forget his last
Yeah.
name. Yeah, Whiplash, essentially. Um, in the coverage, I already talked about how I think Mickey Rourke's acting was pretty darn bad. A contender with Gwyneth Paltrow's, one could see. I think Whiplash in Iron Man 2 is what Samuel Stern is in Incredible Hulk, where it just feels like too goofy of a character in the world of the movie situation. And with that, you can easily see I have Whiplash at a D. I don't hate him or think he's just like not used right at all, but his vengeance for Tony and what he's doing with Justin Hammer not being the smartest guy, and Justin Hammer and Whiplash, quote unquote, working together, I think is okay. But even so, it's not Whiplash working with Justin Hammer; it's using Justin Hammer. So, yeah, he just seems too zany, I guess, and then making himself a whole suit, Iron Man suit. Don't know where he was hiding that. His face is faster than a bullet. That's weird. Just they're giving him like all this, I guess, plot armor to keep him around. Um, so yeah, a D.
I'm thinking about Whiplash right now. I think he's a very straightforward character. Hates Tony Stark, wants to get revenge, builds an arc reactor. Um, it's again directly tied to uh, Howard Stark and therefore Tony Stark's legacy. Um, there he does deliver, I think, one of the best lines in the MCU, which is, "If you make God bleed, people will cease to believe in him." It kind of has a sort of a callback later on in the MCU, but I think I'm I might be at a C. I think the weakest aspect of him is probably Mickey Rourke's acting, but I view him as an extremely serviceable villain. I don't think he's as strong as Justin Hammer, um, as terms of like on-screen presence, but he pops in and out to be a boss fight, I guess. Um, and I he definitely has a lot of plot armor to him. So I'm at a low C, I think.
All right, Whiplash was the only F I had on my ratings, my rank.
Really?
I don't really have anything positive to say about him. Even something we didn't even talk about on the podcast that I was thinking about while doing this is the concept of his weapon, his whips. Why? He's going against Iron Man, a guy that can fly and shoot from afar, and his idea with his arc reactor is whips. I don't think that's very wise.
Yeah.
Granted,
I mean,
he planned on invading at a car race, but shooting would probably be better than just a whip. I don't know.
that's actually a very good point. Well, I mean,
Uh,
he would have had a. I mean, if Tony Stark had his full suit there, he wouldn't have stood a chance. Like, a Stark would just be like 30 feet in the air and just aim at him.
yeah, I mean it's not a great plan, all things considered. So that's not great. The Iron Man suit out of nowhere, which isn't great, because we did look during the coverage, and it is a new suit. It isn't a hammer drone repurposed. It's newly constructed. He didn't have the time to do that and the drone stuff, as we discussed on the timeline. I don't find him funny. Any humor seems revolving around him. Justin is Justin Hammer. And I think my favorite scene with him is him exchanging looks with the prisoner at his escape. I think that's my favorite bit with him. Other than that, yeah, the acting's not good either. I don't have much positive to say for Whiplash, so I have an F.
Writer, has that moved you at all?
Um, yeah, I'm in a solid D tier.
Okay, that's two D's and an F.
I didn't move you to an F, Springs.
No.
No,
No, I think there's worse
I don't think we have an
characters.
F yet.
We don't, not yet, but I think there are more deserving characters to me than Whiplash who should get F. Maybe even the last character we have.
But who knows?
Who knows? And our last but not least character, we have Yinsen from Iron Man 1, who functions as Iron Man's sort of catalyst to being a hero in the way Erskine does for Steve Rogers. Though I would argue Yinsen probably has a bigger effect because Yinsen indicates a fundamental change of the character, while Erskine is a fundamental like stay who you are kind of character. So a little bit different, but the intensive purpose of the mentor archetype is the same. Um, I'm I'm probably gonna put Yinsen wherever Erskine ended up, and Erskine ended up in B, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it makes sense for me then to put him in B with Erskine. But like with my original idea for him, I think I would have him at an A with Erskine in my original head draft of all this.
I meant to be for pretty much the same reasons. He's kind of the opposite, but same to Erskine. Like Ryder said, he changes Tony while Erskine's keeps Steve the same. So
Okay, and I have him at a C. I just don't like him as much as Erskine.
okay,
But that's two B's and a C.
nothing too complex.
Nope.
Yeah.
But that is then all 40, in quotations, 41 characters put in. No Fs right now.
Mhm.
But we
For
now,
now.
yes, we now come to our end of the line moving, if need be.
Sure, there'll be some
Uh,
moving around here.
quite possibly. I've got two characters I can move down and a character I can move up. I think.
Decisions.
And what would those three
Decisions.
characters be?
Yeah. Well, I'll talk you through my process. If we're assuming we're back out in error. Um. uh. Yeah. So I got three characters I could think. I'm thinking on moving right now. The first is I probably want to move. Uh. I would want to move. I forgot his name. God damn it.
Grant?
Um. Yeah. I there you go. Yeah. Grant is a character I'd move down into D. I'd be okay with that. Um. I also wouldn't mind moving Eric Seldig up to A, and I wouldn't mind moving uh, Sky down into F. Um, and also I wouldn't mind moving Loki up to S.
Ooh, 4.
Yeah, I think.
10% of the roster is in play for moving.
I know, right?
It's a real bummer when you have to be the first one.
Yeah, it's true.
Because it can be undone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's happened.
yeah, I remember. I think as much as I'm gonna move Grant into D, I think Loki is more deserving of S than Grant being moved down to D. I think I'll move Loki to S.
Ooh.
Now I just gotta find which number Loki was. There we go.
Loki
to
is an
S.
S. Do I want to screw with that?
You have the
No,
power.
I don't need to screw with that. I've also been bouncing between 3, not 4, but I was thinking bumping Heimdall to a B, moving Rhodey down to a C, raising Grant to a B. Who is more worthy?
who I'd pick on your list, but
Heimdall, Rhodey, and Grant.
I'll give you a spoiler alert. It ain't Grant.
Grant. Uh, yeah. And part of me kind of wants to move Nick Fury up too, but jeez Louise, this is a toughie.
Indeed, it is.
Heimdall. Who's he competing with? Yeah, I'd say he's better than the C's. Oh man, I feel like if I move Grant, Springs is just going to move him back down.
You need to make a decision, Crimson.
It's a big decision,
It
but I don't
sure
want to force
is.
your hand either.
You have the possibility of making me change my decision right now.
It's on the table. I'll move Rhodey to C.
Move Rhodey to C. What number is Rhodey?
Couldn't tell you. Oh man, Grant would be number 2. I'll
Found
move up to a
Rhodey.
B.
All right, you're making Rhodey go down to a C, was it?
Yes.
Kind of sad I didn't DM Springs to coordinate Grant going into F tier between the two of us.
That possibility was on the table.
It truly was.
Now let's see here. Ryder, you've saved one of my decisions. I did think of moving Loki up to an S. Crimson, if you moved Grant up to a B, I would have swatted it down.
Oh, I knew you would. 100%.
Because how I sit is, I have where I would, my letter grade of what I would give someone on tier. And if the character winds up one above or one below, I'm comfortable. If it's any more than that, if it's 2, that to me is not sitting well with me, and I would move.
There aren't really many of those this time
True,
around.
there isn't much. I would say, however, Crimson, if you moved Nick Fury to an S, I would have swatted that down. Those were the
That's
2.
evil.
If it was one of those 2, I would have swatted it down. I was thinking about moving Chester Phillips down, because to me, I don't think he really lines up with the other characters there.
He really doesn't. As much as I love,
But
Chester
he
Phillips.
is very comical and fitting. However, I think, and I did think about the other, because the other to me, or the Chitauri speaker, was like my 1F, pretty much. But being a D, I think that's okay. But to me, out of all of this I'm seeing, one just doesn't match to me, like in an okay aspect with the rest.
I know where this is going, I think, now.
I am moving Christine Everhart down to a D.
Yeah. I saw that one coming.
What's wrong with Christine?
Not with everyone else. Not with those
She
C's.
fits your 1 up, 1 down rule.
Not with those C's. I don't like her. Not with those C's. I'm comfortable if she's in an F.
No, I'm not gonna fight too hard on Christine.
Yeah, like I said, I think Christine is deserving a C, but I think it's a lot of her connections to the plot in Iron Man 1, and not necessarily her work in Iron Man 2. So, I'm not opposed. I'm not gonna be angry about that particular move. I kind of saw that one coming with the longer you were going on.
Yeah.
I'm irritated if you swatted my Fury though.
If you moved Fury up, I would have swatted. But that
Grant
is
would have been expected.
our list. We have 3 S's we landed on with Cap, Tony, and Loki, and we didn't get a single F.
But that was an opportunity.
There was certainly a couple opportunities.
Yes.
If we did a phase 2 ranking maybe in the future, what would that be different? Who knows?
I already know like 3 F tier characters.
I'm
Iron
like,
Man
I'm
would be
sure.
dropped to
Phase 2.
D, I'm sure.
Who would?
Iron Man for sure would be dropped to D.
Oh.
Dethrone the king. So
Oh. I think
Yeah.
I think you flubbed up your words. You meant Ironheart, and that's much later.
oh, that's not phase 2, yeah.
Yeah. Nah, Iron Man would definitely be leaving S tier for phase 2.
I could tell you, Bucky would not be in C probably. I don't know where he'd wind up, but he would probably not be where he is.
Why not?
Bucky would be higher, but I don't think he'd be A or S yet.
No, I can't see him being
No.
S. No way.
Yeah. So Bucky probably might go to B, I think, with Winter Soldier.
And Phase 2 also includes the Guardians, right?
Yep.
I can only think of one Guardian who could be argued for an S.
In the first movie,
In the
yeah,
first movie.
I think, yeah, I can
Ronan?
agree with that.
What was that, Crimson?
Ronan?
Ronan. Oh, you know what? I will answer that when and if we ever do it.
That's fair enough. It's interesting to speculate now, though.
It is. But I think this
I know,
was a
I know,
very.
I know. Jarvis is moving up.
I don't. I'd hope, but I don't know.
Potentially moving up.
Because to me, Jarvis and Vision is like Hulk and Bruce Banner. They're not the same.
That would be a debate on that one.
All right. Well, gentlemen, I am satisfied with our tier list.
I'm satisfied enough.
I am also satisfied. I think it looks pretty well done.
All right. Well then, shall I read us out, gentlemen, or do you have any final thoughts?
Audience, let us know down who would be the one you would move if you could move one up or down.
Get Grant to F. Get Grant to F. Get Grant to F.
Oh, this guy is worse than him. Come on.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's why Sky was my one F tier. All right. Thank you, audience, for listening. Whether it be Spotify, Amazon, Castbox, Good Pods, iHeartRadio, Podcasts, and Samsung, and you have to be at our visual side of things, be it YouTube or Rumble. Thank you for watching our PG YouTuber slideshow there. Please feel free to like, comment, subscribe everywhere. Tell us how much you hate our opinions or how much you love them. And as always, I've been a Geeky Writer.
I'm Crimson Maroon.
And I'm Sprinks.
And we will catch you next time. Later, everybody.
Bye.
Toodaloo.